Hokage I'll become stronger when I'm fishing. Chapter 101-120. Chapter 101. Kill the Tianlong people, and the General Kizaru appears. You damn pariah, how dare you! Charles Ross watched Iori Kingdo kill all the guards under his command, and finally reacted from his anger. To the anger in the bottom of my heart, there was also a trace of fear. The person in front of him is not an ordinary pariah, but a lunatic who dares to offend him. But, so what if there are some pirates who dare to offend a lunatic? But over the years, after the Admiral's suppression, no one dared to come forward. Now, there is again. Well, it's time to let those humiliating pariahs know that they are heavenly dragons and are not to be offended. Charles Ross gritted his teeth, with unspeakable anger and hideous expressions on his face. He turned back and roared at his squire, "Call me the Admiral." Listening to Charles Ross's angry roar, the attendant behind him nodded in horror. They can feel the strength of Yagami Kingdo. In the face of this situation, it is indeed only possible to inform the Navy headquarters to let the Admiral come over. They could dial the emergency number. A strange force spread from the end of the street. Yagami Kingdo looked at Tianlongren and his subordinates calmly, reached out, and pressed all the servants and guards who were trying to protect Charles Ross into the ground. Blood was running wild. Those guards and servants who died on the spot couldn't die again. When Charles Ross saw this scene, the horror on his face became more and more serious. He fell from the riding slave and looked around in horror. However, it was precisely because he fell down and sat down that he saw the slave he was riding. As if he had caught a life-saving straw, he pulled the chain in his hand, pulled the explosive ring on the slave's neck, and shouted in panic, "Quick! Quickly block him!" However, the slave didn't plan to go with Richard Rose at all, but quietly watched Yagami Kingdo walking over. He cracked his mouth and smiled. That was a relief. Than being a dog for the Tianlong people, it is better to die like this. Bastard, bastard, stop him for me. Charles Ross was angry. Even the humble slave dared to resist his orders. He slammed the slave with his feet, but then, the slave turned his head. Staring at Charles Ross with angry eyes, his heart skipped a beat and he retreated in horror. Boom! With a roar, the explosive ring on the slave's neck exploded and fell in a pool of blood. Yagami Kanto didn't pay any attention to this, he just stared at Charles Ross. At this moment, Iori Kingdo, who is far from Charles Ross, is already in the attack range. You pariah, you want to do it. Charles Ross dragged his hands on the ground, frantically trying to back up, and roaring at the same time. He clearly felt the indifference in Yagami Kingdo's eyes, the fear of death lingering in his heart. He has never thought about such a thing in his life. He is a world aristocrat from Tianlong. Anyone dares to offend him, an admiral will be dispatched. Now, someone actually wants to kill him. Is this person insane? But, no matter how horrified and terrified he was, Yagami Kanto's eyes were as cold as ever. Raising his hand calmly, he was about to hit Charles Ross's head with a punch. It was also between the electric light and flint. A bright golden light shot up into the sky. In that golden flash, a figure charged towards Charles Ross at an extremely fast speed. It's a pity. Still a step slower. When the golden light finally arrived, Yagami Kingdo's fist also fell. A terrifying force shattered Charles Ross's head. Blood splashed all over the ground, and the cruel scene shocked everyone around. Even the General Kizaru, who was one step behind, was shocked beyond measure. A look of shock appeared on Kizaru's wretched face. Someone actually killed the Tianlong people. He never expected to encounter such a thing. Not to mention that the Tianlong people were killed. Even if they were offended, it was a death penalty, and the Admiral of the Navy was required to guard them. And now, the Tianlong people were not only killed, but also killed in the Chambord Islands. Not to mention him, even the Navy headquarters and the 5 old stars have to bear the huge pressure brought by the Tianlong people. The audience is dead silent. Even Kazuna didn't think of it, let alone those. The people who were kneeling on both sides of the street. They all looked at Charles Rose, whose head was smashed to pieces, with their mouths wide open, unable to make a sound. However, what no one knows is that it is precisely because of such incidents that the hearts of these civilians are open to resist the oppression of the Tianlong people. Tianlongren are not real gods. Tianlongren will also die. After all, Kizaru is an admiral of the navy and has experienced countless events and countless battles. He quickly recovered from the unspeakable shock, but his wrinkled face was rarely full of solemnity. In this case, it really becomes very bad. Kizaru stared at Kangdu Iori, narrowed his eyes slightly, and said, "Little devil, where did you come from? Do you know what you have done?" Yagami Kangdu slowly turned his head and looked at Kizaru, not surprised by his arrival. It is very close to the Navy headquarters, and if Kyabu is in the headquarters, he is indeed the fastest person to arrive. The eight gods Kangdu looked at Kizaru indifferently and said, "I can only blame you for being a step late. It's really a headache, I came here in a relaxed mood." Kizaru recovered a little bit of a wretched tone, but still had a hint of depression. Death of the Tianlong people is a big event that pierces the sky. If he doesn't arrest Yagami Kangdu, he will never be able to explain to the headquarters and the Tianlong people. Admiral, Kizaru. On both sides of the street also focused their attention on the yellow monkey at this time. As a person living in the Chambord Islands, it is natural to know about the three generals of the Navy. Someone recognized the yellow monkey, and told the identity of the yellow monkey in horror. Why does no one dare to offend the Tianlong people? Not even the supernova pirates dare to offend the Tianlong people, which will attract the admiral. Without the protection of the admiral, the Tianlong people have long been tortured to death by angry people. How dare you do such a powerful thing and run amok in the world? Can you survive this young man in front of you? Ignore the privileges granted by the world headquarters, and ignore the heavenly world headquarters. Killed here a draconian with supremacy. No matter what the identity of Yagami Kangdu is, whether it is a pirate or a revolutionary army, I am afraid that it will not escape death. Philo reminds you, 3 things to read, collect, recommend, and share. Chapter 102, Admiral. Beat the Yellow Ape. This is the Admiral of Justice. It's ridiculous. The lackeys of the Tianlong people. The so-called justice is to oppress us for the Tianlong people. And with the death of Charles Ross, the people around him who had been resenting the Tianlong people for a long time broke out. A sentence, even in front of Kizaru, was an unceremonious sneer. As an admiral of the Navy, it is said that Kizaru is a domineering man. Sneers echoed in his ears harshly. The yellow monkey's face was extremely ugly, and he didn't intend to waste time. He stared at Yagami Kangdu, his figure flickering extremely suddenly. He quickly approached Yagami Kanto, and kicked him across. Originally, I was planning to make a joke and ask Yagami Kangdu if he had been kicked by the speed of light, but now he is no longer interested. The only purpose is to defeat Yagami Kangdu as soon as possible and escort him to trial. In this way, the anger of the Tianlong people is relieved. When Kizaru was about to hit Yagami Kangdu with this kick, Yagami Kangdu slowly raised his hand to block it. It seemed that it was completely unable to keep up with the speed of Kizaru, but strangely blocked the whip leg kicked by the Aurora. Bang! Yagami Kangdu's arm blocked Kyabu's foot, and he didn't move at all, standing firmly on the spot. Admiral, it seems, a little weak. Blocking Kyabu, in front of him, Yagami Kangdu smiled. I thought the general's strength would be so perverted, but I didn't expect it to be normal. To his estimation, although it can't be said that Kyabu can crush the general's strength, he can definitely win the battle. Ah, it's really troublesome, can't you let me arrest you and send it to the Tianlong people for trial? Huang Yuan grinned and said, if you are like this, I can't explain it to the Tianlong people. Bang! Yagami Kangdu blocked Kyabu's whip leg again. His samsara eyes were able to clearly capture Kizaru's movements. After 2 short fights with Kizaru, Yagami Kangdu clearly realized that the speed of Kizaru with the glittering fruit is indeed very fast. But it is not the speed of light, and it is far less than the speed of light. It was exactly as expected. Yagami Kangdu's eyes were calm, and he had guessed before that Kizaru's speed was probably the upper limit of human consciousness. Now it seems that it is so. The upper limit of the fruit speed of the yellow monkey is the speed of light, but his neural response cannot reach the speed of light. To attack, you must first have the idea of attacking, and then the body will carry it out. The thoughts of mortals cannot reach the level of the speed of light. It's my turn. Facing the Kizaru attacking again, Yagami Kangdu smiled. Advanced, using divine power, appeared beside him at a faster speed than Huang, and at the same time slammed out with a punch. Boom! It happened too suddenly, and Kizaru couldn't avoid it at all. The whole person flew out, and a huge roar broke out. Victory to pursue the attack, came to the side of the yellow monkey, and slammed it down with one punch after another. Blue steam erupted, and the seventh door of the 8 gates of Dunjia was activated directly. Huang Yuan was beaten and suppressed, and he couldn't resist at all. Desperation, he could only try his best to fold his hands to protect his head, and display his armed arrogance to parry the continuous attacks of Yagami Kangdu. Under the series of blows from Yagami Kangdu, Kizaru could only parry in embarrassment. But he relies too much on the fruit. Once affected, he can't exert his speed, and there is a big flaw in melee combat. What's more, after opening the 8 gates of Dunjia, Yagami Kangdu's physical strength increased exponentially. Even with the armed color domineering turned on, Kizaru vomited blood frantically, and the whole person was about to be beaten. Am I dreaming? People who had seen Yagami Kangdu kill the Tianlong people before, and saw Kizaru's actions against Yagami Kangdu were stunned. Seeing the scene of Kizaru being beaten, they didn't know what to say anymore. What did they see? Admiral Kizaru of the Navy headquarters was beaten violently by a suspected civilian who appeared inexplicably. Doesn't show any devil fruit abilities, it seems to be super strong in terms of physical fitness. In this way, he suppressed Admiral Kizaru so much that he didn't even have the ability to parry. Day Tiger kept throwing his fists, and found that although the yellow monkey was spraying blood, he was still very imposing. Yagami Kangdu directly sent out high-pressure gas bombs, slamming Kyabu. Kizaru crossed his arms above his head to parry, and his whole body turned into a golden light, and was sunk deep into the ground by the 8 gods Kangdu. Boom! A huge roar came, and the golden light exploded, shattering several buildings. Kazuna was hammered and sunk deep into the ground, but Yagami Kangdu did not immediately pursue him. After all, the Chambord Islands were too close to the headquarters of the Navy, which caused too much movement, and some did not end well. It doesn't matter, it's just. Nina is not easy to handle. Cough, cough. In a burst of golden light, Kizaru climbed out of the ruins. Clothes were shattered, and blood was spilling from the corners of his mouth. He was shocked. He didn't expect the sudden appearance of Yagami Kangdu to have the power to suppress him. Even if he had faced the 4 emperors, he had never suffered such a loss. Kizaru put away the dangling look on his face, and his whole body suddenly turned into a golden light and rushed towards the 8 gods Kangdu. As it approached, his hands flicked, and Kizaru transformed into a golden sword, slashing towards Yagami Kangdu. Heaven Kong Yunjian. Boom! The first stage arm of the Scarlet Susano appeared, guarding Yagami Soto inside. The two collided, causing a violent explosion. Yagami Kangdu faced Kizaru, and high-pressure gas bombs continued to explode. Kizaru kept using the fruit ability to dodge, and after a while, he became more and more frightened. Just now, he thought that he didn't try his best and suffered a loss. Now that he is serious, he still can't help the mysterious man in front of him. He is also a great general. In the whole new world, I have never heard of such a young man appearing as strong as a general. The point is, you're still so young. But the 8 gods Kangdu killed the Tianlong people after all, and with the character of Kizaru, although I hope that more things are better than less things. A big deal, and he had to go all out. Whether it can win the Yagami Kangdu, that is another matter. 8-foot Changgu Jade. Facing the high-pressure gas bombs from Yagami Kangdu, Kizaru folded his hands in front of him, and shot the Tiankong Yunjian into golden photons and disappeared. At the same time, his arms were staggered, and countless lasers were transformed, shooting towards Yagami Kangdu. Boom, boom, boom. 8-foot Changyu's laser directly included all large-scale areas into the attack range. Every laser and high-pressure gas bombs collided together, and there was a roar, like a super cannon banging against each other. In this contest, Kizaru regained a little face, and did not let Yagami Kangdu gain the upper hand. However, just as Kizaru approached Iori Kangdu with the Tiankong Cloud Sword, ready to use melee combat to secure the victory, the Iori Kangdu he perceived was gone. Chapter 103. Comparable to the 3 disasters, a reward of 1 billion Baileys is offered. Even with his domineering perception, he couldn't capture Yagami Kangdu who had entered the magical space. Just listen to, boom. A loud bang, Kizaru was knocked away. The people around were all staring in astonishment, and they didn't have so many chances to see the incident of beating up the General Kizaru. Just when everyone thought that the yellow ape was forcibly crushed, he would choose to fight to the end. As a result, the yellow monkey turned into a golden flash and escaped. He has done his best, and he is no match for Yagami Kanto at all. If you fight again, you will have to fight hard. Simply non-existent for the Kizaru, who loves paddling, to serve the civilians of the Navy. Anyway, the tricks of Twinkle Fruit have been revealed, and there are so many witnesses at the scene, and what he has explained to the Navy headquarters is enough. As for Iori Kangdu, he just shook his head and did not pursue him. He also has a rough estimate of his own strength, which exceeds the level of a general, but it is really hard to say whether he is invincible in the world of pirates. U3. Knowing now, Nina recovered from the shock, looking at Yagami Kangdu speechless. She never imagined that the person she rescued casually would have the strength to rival a naval admiral. I'm just an ordinary person. Let's go, I shouldn't be able to stay here. Yagami Kangdu knew what Nina was thinking, just smiled slightly, then turned and left. Nina quickly followed, as Yagami Kangdu was not familiar with this place, so as not to get lost. Dressrosa. Inside the central castle, Doflamingo was resting leisurely on the sofa, but at the moment he was holding a phone bug. He got from the other side of the phone bug caused an evil smile on his face. Who is the Tianlong people who killed the Chambord archipelago? It's bold enough, but it suits my appetite. He has always paid attention to the Draco people of the Chambord Islands. Unexpectedly, there was news from someone today. In the Chambord Islands, someone killed a Draco. Doflamingo used to be a Draco, but he lost his identity as a Draco due to a series of events. Even if he took his father's head to the Holy Land, he was still not recognized. Unable to regain the identity of Tianlong people, this made Doflamingo feel extremely resentful towards Tianlong people. The Charles Rose family was one of the Tianlong people who opposed him to regain his identity back then. It's interesting. Mary Joa is probably in a mess now. Those old guys from the 5 Old Stars will also have a headache. Doflamingo couldn't help laughing. Eerie laughter echoed in the castle. Toripal also wriggled and slid over from the ground, shaking his snot, and grinned. Hey, Charles Ross was killed, it's really sweet news. At the same time, Yagami Kangdu in the Chambord archipelago, the Dragon Man Charles Rose. And he fought against the general of the Navy headquarters, and the news of the yellow monkey quickly spread throughout the sea. The whole world fell into silence to kill the Tianlong people. The fierce battle of the Admiral. It is a world that is unbelievable even in a dream. Navy headquarters. The Navy headquarters at this moment has long been a mess. Walking in the corridors, you can see a large number of admirals running back and forth in a hurry. Many people's faces were covered in cold sweat because of their impatience. In the office at the highest level, Marshal Sengoku was covering his forehead, his face extremely depressed. Under the watchful eyes of everyone, someone actually killed a world noble Tianlong in the Chambord archipelago. Warring states, come to the Holy Land immediately. There are also 3 people, Qingzi, Kizaru, and Akainu, all come together. On the other end of the phone worm, came the voice of the former Admiral of the Navy and the current General Marshal of the whole army, Gang Kong Kong. His tone was extremely stern and solemn. It had only been a few years since he had left the post of Admiral, but the Navy got into such a big trouble, and now the Draconians have come to Mary Joa, scolding all levels of the headquarters. Yes, Marshal Kong. Warring States' brows furrowed together tightly, and his heart was angry. But he couldn't do it, he could only respond to Kong on the other side of the phone bug. There are 6 people in this office. In addition to Sengoku, there are also 3 admirals, Aoji, Kizaru and Akainu, plus 2 special lieutenants, Crane and Garp. Ha 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 ha, did that kid kill a Tianlong person? Garp had just arrived at the office, and he had just heard about it. Walked in, he grinned and smiled without hesitation. The oppressive atmosphere was instantly shattered. Cap. Sengoku glared at Garp and shouted, "How long can you still laugh? Don't you know how serious this is?" Seeing Sengoku's anger, Garp forcibly suppressed his smile and waved at Sengoku. In his eyes, the Tianlong people are just a bunch of garbage, and the last one is a happy thing. This is one of the reasons why he has repeatedly refused to be promoted. Once you become a general, if the Tianlong people are offended, they must immediately out. It is absolutely something that Garp can't stand to give the dragons a head. He will not run to be a dog for the Tianlong people. Quote. Warring States' cheese face turned blue, but there was nothing he could do about Garp. He turned to look at Kizaru and Qingzi, and said, "Kizuka, Qingzi, Akainu. You can go to the Holy Land with me." At this time, Kizaru no longer had a condescending attitude, and the whole person seemed a little helpless. It's not that he's afraid, but that this kind of troublesome thing has been spread by him. It was his first time as a general. This time, our Navy has something to do. Crane watched Sengoku and Qingzi walk out of the room, and shook his head involuntarily, a pair of wise eyes flickered. Garp found a pack of senbei, sat down on the sofa, and said, "It's enough to give Sengoku a headache." Quote. Originally it was too late to block it when it happened in the public eye. After a few days of attention from countless people, for Yagami Kangdu has been released. Billy and Bailey, whether it is escaping from the Admiral's command or killing the world's noble Tianlong people, there is no doubt that they can afford the terrifying reward of 1 billion Bailey. Such a reward does not need to be halfway ahead, even if it is a great reward. The new world in the second half of the route is also extremely high. The level has reached the level of the 3 emperors of the 4 emperor pirates, second only to the 4 emperors who ruled the sea. Of course, Yagami Kangdu still doesn't know all this. Philo reminds you, 3 things to read, collect, recommend and share. Chapter 104, Turbulent Mermaid Island, Holy Masquerade. 9 kilometers under the sea. At this depth, the pressure brought by the sea has become very terrifying. The surrounding sea has long since become pitch black, and Susano controlled by Yagami Sudo is not yet close to the limit. In fact, Yagami Kanto had no way of judging how many meters deep the bottom of the sea was. According to records, Fishman Island is located 10,000 meters below the sea. But in fact the entire Fishman Island is spherical, and its diameter is not more than 10 kilometers. Therefore, Fishman Island is still at a deeper seabed. I don't know how long it took. Even the complete body Susano began to feel the pressure, although there is still a certain distance from the collapse. At this time, the dark seabed finally appeared bright. Looking in the direction from which the light came, a planet-like island was wrapped in a huge double-layered bubble. Here is the legendary Mermaid Island. Finally here, this is the rumored Fishman Island. Nina was right next to Yagami Kanto, and when Fishman Island finally appeared, her eyes were full of surprises. To say that now, the place that can avoid the first discovery by the Navy headquarters is the Mermaid Island protected by Whitebeard for the time being. Few years ago, Mermaid Island was also infested by various pirates. But since Whitebeard planted his flag on Fishman Island and listed Fishman Island as his own territory, the pirates passing by here hardly dare to rush to the island to hunt merman. Weak pirates will be blocked directly outside. Powerful pirates who have the strength to break through the Fishman Island also understand what kind of existence Whitebeard is. Few people provoke the Whitebeard before entering the New World. Legend. Mermaid, this is the first time I see it. Nina was beside Yagami Kenta, looked at the mermaids in the distance in amazement, and blurted out in shock. Come on, let's go in. After breathing the air of Fishman Island on the beach, Yagami Kanto opened his eyes and walked towards the interior of Fishman Island. Now that you are on Fishman Island, take a good rest. By the way, let's meet Sea King, one of the ancient weapons. Mermaid Princess Shirahoshi. Of the three ancient weapons, Sea King can be said to be the one that Yagami Kingdo knows best. Able to communicate with the Sea Kings and command the power of the Sea Kings. Very scary. This world, what biological group is the strongest as a whole, in front of the Sea Kings, no matter what? Whether it's human or giant, Hand Elders, all have to stand aside. The Elephant Lord carrying Zo, one of the three disasters of the Beast Pirates with a bounty of 1 billion, Jack Drought. Among the Sea Kings, there is more than one that is comparable in size to the Elephant Lord. These supergiant Sea Kings may be inflexible admirals, 4 emperors. But if you want to destroy an island, don't take it too easily. To destroy the world is not a strong one-on-one ability, but a power that can destroy the world. If Baixing issued an order to destroy the islands of the whole world, even if the 4 emperors or even the generals joined forces, countless islands would still be destroyed by the Sea Kings. This is called destroying the world. Whether it is Uranus, Pluto, or Sea King, they all belong to the existence of nuclear weapons. Usually used as a deterrent, but not used. The other side. Somewhere on an exquisite street paved with shells, a ship flying the flag of the world headquarters appeared here. It's just that at this moment, the ship's appearance is a bit miserable. Generally broken, with a huge gap missing at the edge, which seems to have been nibbled away by the Sea Kings. Many Murlocs and mermen gathered around, but looking at Muskerood's appearance, they were amazed. At this moment, a gunshot rang out in front of the ship. Whoosh, whoosh, beasts, they're all dead, this group of useless waste. The Dragon Man Muskerood collapsed on the ground, gasping for breath, covered in blood, holding a smoking pistol in his hand. Accepted the Shichibukai Treaty not long ago, he became the king's Shichibukai. Therefore, the Murloc slaves were all pardoned. As a Tianlong person, he was very unhappy about this. He likes to collect Murloc slaves very much, and in order to get back the freed slaves, he came to the Murloc Island. During the voyage, unfortunately, he ran into a Sea King. All but himself were killed to protect him. Hurry up and bring the mask to this young master, Fish. Muskerood was lying on the ground, but with a vicious posture, he roared at the Murlocs around him. Even if he is seriously injured, he still does not change his arrogant personality. Phoo, the stench of fish here is almost killing me. Bring the mask, hurry up and save me, bastard. Numerous Murlocs and mermen looked at the heavenly dragon who lay there seriously wounded, and looked at each other in dismay. This was the first time that they saw Tianlong people on their Fishman Island, and they didn't know what to do with it. Seeing that the Murlocs and mermen are still around, silent, Muskerood raised his pistol, and roared again with difficulty, you idiots, call the doctor, huh? Huh, don't come to me again, it's going to die. At this time, the guards of Dragon Palace City had arrived, and the captain looked at this scene with a little hesitation. But he quickly turned his head and asked the guard behind him, "Where's the medical team?" "It's already here, but what to do with that guy?" The guard behind him looked very hesitant. As a member of Fishman Island, their hatred for Tianlong people is very deep. Before Jinbei joined the Kibukai, too many compatriots from their Fishman Island were taken away as slaves, sold, and never returned. And now, Fishman Island has been liberated, but the Tianlong people in front of him actually dare to yell at them. Just when the guards were hesitating, the fishmen of the Sun Pirates under Jinpei slowly stepped forward with their weapons. They looked at the eyes of Saint Masquerade, very cold. Several of them were once slaves of the celestial dragons. "Hey, what do you want to do?" The guards and the fish people around were surprised when they saw the members of the Sun Pirates step forward, and some people asked nervously. However, the people of the Sun Pirates ignored them, but with a cold face, they walked towards Masquerade step by step, with a murderous look in their eyes. "Hurry up, you guys, he's a heavenly dragon. Once you attack him, even the amnesty of Chihuahai will be cancelled immediately." Seeing that the Sun Pirates were murderous, they quickly approached Saint Masquerade, and someone nervously tried to stop them. However, the Murlocs didn't pay attention, and the one at the head indifferently pulled out guns. The dark muzzle pointed at Saint Masquerade. Chapter 105. Ignore the rules, Princess E.G. Staring at Saint Masquerade, the leader showed murderous intent and said indifferently, "Dragon people. On this 10,000-meter bottom of Merman Island, as long as the villagers choose to keep their mouths shut, your death will be nothing more than an ordinary shipwreck." Hearing this sentence, the surrounding Murlocs and mermaids were all stunned. "That's right, I'll keep silent." "Me too, of course. Even if it doesn't matter. This guy is also dying. Anyway, we'll die sooner or later, let him taste the pain the slaves have suffered." Numerous Murlocs shouted, changing their hesitation before. Some people even showed a fierce look on their faces, wishing they could do it themselves. The Murloc at the head looked indifferently at Saint Masquerade, who was speechless. "How can this happen? How dare you?" To the great young master, the heavenly dragon man lying on the ground, Saint Masquerade looked at the reactions of the surrounding fish in disbelief. He regretted it, he had no idea that the deep sea was so terrible. But there is no regret medicine in the world, and the murderous intent loomed in the eyes of the Murloc-headed, and he pulled the trigger. Whoosh! But at this moment, a figure rushed over and rescued Saint Masquerade. That was shot at Saint Masquerade with his shoulder. "She is the princess of Fishman Island, Odahime. Your Highness Princess." Seeing this scene, the surrounding fish and mermaids blurted out in shock. No one thought that Otoji would rush out and was injured. Everyone put their guns down. A trace of sweat dripped from the wounded Itoji's forehead. She raised her head in pain and looked at the Murloc with a gun next to her. The children are watching. On the one hand, it is kind-hearted, and it is impossible to watch the Tianlong people be killed by the Murlocs. Other hand, if you save the Tianlong people, it may bring some turning points for the status of Fishman Island. Not far away, six-year-old mermaid Princess Shirahoshi, and the other three princes came close. Seeing that Otoji was injured, Bai Xing, Sha Xing and others showed panic and worry. And just when Otoji opened her mouth with a slightly painful voice, trying to get the nearby Murlocs to put down their guns. Behind her, Saint Masquerade picked up the gun with difficulty, and took Odahime as a hostage. But, hateful fish. Seeing this scene, the expressions of all the Murlocs nearby changed. Standing in the crowd, Jinpei exclaimed and was about to rush over, but it was too late. Bang! Holy Masquerade pulled the trigger. A bullet was shot at Princess Otoji, too close, giving people time to react. But just when the bullet was about to touch the princess, a terrifying gravitational force pulled the bullet into the ground. PFF'd. With a muffled sound, Princess Otoji's crisis is lifted. At the top of a shell building not far away, Yagami Kingdu slowly retracted his palm. The void around him distorted and appeared in the field. Your Highness Princess. Human. Many Murlocs looked at Otoji with horror and worry. There were also quite a few Murlocs looking at Kingdu Yagami in shock. Eiji also noticed Yagami Kingdu. If he hadn't made a move just now, Eiji would probably die. Trash is still rubbish, and it doesn't deserve pity. Yagami Kingdu looked at Masquerade Saint indifferently. After being rescued by Otoji, he instead shoots at Otoji who saved him, a typical farmer and snake. Yagami Soto stood there, aware of the gaze from Otahime behind him. Without waiting for the other party to speak, he calmly said, "Let me handle this Tianlong person, Princess Eiji." You are. Otoji looked at the figure of Yagami Kingdu a little stunned. Yagami Kingdu was a human being, and he could tell at a glance. She didn't know what Yagami Kingdu would do to Tianlongren. Just as she was about to say something, the guards at the rear had already rushed up and blocked her. It is impossible to let the dignified princess continue to risk her life. You are human. Damn, what did you just say? Saint Masquerade was startled by the sudden appearance of Yagami Kingdu, and after reacting, he also found out that Yagami Kingta was human. Thinking of what Yagami Kanto said just now, he immediately. There was another look of anger. He is a world aristocrat from Heavenly Dragon, and this human being in front of him dares to call him trash. He was so angry that he raised his pistol with difficulty, and was about to shoot at Kingdu, the eight gods. But I saw Yagami Kingdu gently raising his hand and pressing down. Boom! Holy Masquerade was directly squeezed to the ground. The pain was not able to kill the arrogance of Saint Masquerade, struggling to roar. Bastard, you dare to attack me, I am a noble Tianlong person, you. Despicable slaves. Do you know Charles Rosé? Yagami Kingdu remained unmoved, looked down at Saint Masquerade and asked indifferently. Saint Masquerade coughed violently, his eyelids began to dizzy because of the serious injury. Charles rose. Well, I killed him. Yagami Kanto said calmly. Holy Masquerade's expression instantly solidified on his face. And disbelief in his eyes. Of course he didn't dare, and he didn't want to believe what Yagami Kingta said. But if he dares to say such words as killing Tianlong people, he is probably also a crazy guy. Fear eroded his brain, coupled with serious injuries. Holy Masquerade's eyes finally turned white, and he passed out completely in a coma. Yagami Kingdu was about to wave his hand to kill him. His hand stopped in the air, he hesitated for a moment, and then changed his mind. Take him back, maybe it will come in handy. Tianlong people have killed one, and he doesn't mind killing another. But he himself has the ability of other gods, and because he eats the fruit of the god tree in the ninja world, there will be no side effects, and the time is very short. Keeping a spy of the Tianlong people may be able to play a huge role. Dying somewhere else is more meaningful than dying silently on Fishman Island. Wait, where are you taking him? Princess Otoji looked at Nina who was going to take the Tianlong people away, and couldn't help but ask. Where to take her? It's not up to the princess to manage. Yagami Kanto turned his head to look at Otoji and smiled gently. Changed, and he said, this is not the place to talk. If you can you take me to the Dragon Palace city for a walk? It was Yagami Kingdu who saved him, but Princess Otoji didn't object to this. It was at this time that Jinpei, who was beside him, recognized the identity of Yagami Kingdu. Filu reminds you, 3 things to read, collect, recommend and share. Chapter 106, The Attitude of the World Government. What does it have to do with me? He looked at Kingdu, the 8 gods, and blurted out in shock. His Royal Highness, he is the one who has just been wanted, and the reward is as high as 1 billion Bailey. Of Yagami Kanto's killing of Charles Rose and the fierce battle with Admiral Kizaru has not been passed on to Fishman Island for the time being. However, Jinbei has just joined the Kibukai, and to a certain extent can be shared with the Navy's intelligence system. Billy and Bailey is comparable to the Bounty of the Three Disasters, and his strength is probably not as good as even him. I already know. Otoji nodded slowly, not surprised. Dare to do this to the Tianlong people, except a fool, that is, a person with terrifying strength. With enough confidence in himself, it is obvious that Yagami Kanto belongs to the latter. Even Jinbei knew this was not the place to talk. Even if he knows very well in his heart, Yagami Kanto is an extremely dangerous person. But Jinbei had no choice but to say no more. Although there are many members of the Sun Pirates, there are also many people around. The most terrifying thing is that Yagami Kangdu is a character who can fight against Kyabu. He doesn't have the confidence to protect himself, let alone protect the people of so many Fishman Islands around him. Everyone is gone, the matter of the Tianlong people will end here. No one should spread it. Jinbei glanced at Yagami Kangdu a little, and cautiously looked at the many murlocs and mermaids around and spoke. His prestige was very high among the murlocs, and the nearby murlocs and mermen also knew what was wrong, and nodded and left. Hurry up and treat Her Royal Highness Princess. The medical team among the guards also came over quickly, put Otoji on the stretcher, and quickly treated the wound on her shoulder. At this time, Bai Xing Xing and other princes and princesses also ran over. Surrounded by the medical team, they headed towards the Dragon Palace Castle. Shark Star, White Star, I'm fine. Otoji smiled softly at Xiaoxing, Baxing and the others, pretending that she didn't care as much as possible. At the same time, he looked at the 8 gods Kangdu not far away, and said, you have to thank him. Shiraxing and others are all watching that. Although Yagami Kangdu is a human being, there is still some gratitude in his heart. Thank you. In Bai Xing's big, cute eyes, there seemed to be a trace of unwiped tears. Because of the appearance of Yagami Kangdu, this time she failed to awaken the ability of the Sea King, and did not call the Sea King class. Yagami Kangdu smiled at Bai Xing, who is only 6 years old and 6 years old, already much bigger than him. Ogahime was even thinner than him, and it was hard to believe that they would be mother and daughter. Also hard to believe that this cute white star is in front of you. It is actually the legendary ancient weapon, the Sea King Poseidon. The front hall of the Dragon Palace. After Otahime returned to Ryugu Castle, she immediately sent to the medical room for treatment. Yagami Kangdu came to the front hall. The whole hall was very luxurious and dazzling. 4. Human beings, extremely rare pearls, corals and the like can be seen everywhere in Ryugu Castle. Are countless treasures hidden under the sea. At this time, the 8 gods Kangdu was sitting on a chair, and in front of him was the seaman Jinping. Under normal circumstances, Jinpei will not enter the Dragon Palace. However, when a dangerous person like Yagami Kangdu came in, he must follow up and keep an eye on him. Chiwahai, Hexia is very flat. After Yagami Kangdu admired the scenery of Ryaguchung, his eyes returned to Jinping, and there was a hint of deep meaning in his eyes. Thank you for saving your Royal Highness. However, although I don't know what you want to do, I hope you don't mess around here, otherwise the old man will stop you if you die. Jinbei looked at Yagami Kanto with a serious face. Yagami Kangdu, a stranger, appeared in Dragon Palace City, and also had such great hostility to Tianlong people, he naturally had the worst plan. If it is in the sea, he has absolute confidence and can fight with Yagami Kangdu. But in the case of land, in the face of Yagami Kangdu, who offered a reward of 1 billion and was able to fight against Kyabu, he was not sure of winning. Don't be so hostile. Yagami Kangdu chuckled, leaning against the back of the chair lightly. The whole person was very leisurely. Ever since he killed a celestial dragon in the Chambord Islands, Yagami Soto has planned to replace the world government. Although this seems to be more difficult than defeating all the 4 emperors and becoming the pirate king. But he can be unified in the ninja world, and the pirate world is afraid that it will be a matter of time. Challenge the impossible and make it possible, isn't it Yagami Aoto's favorite thing to do? Not long after, a male mermaid wearing a crown walked in. His Royal Highness Neptune. Seeing the other party walking in, Jinbei immediately salute to each other. His identity is the King's Chiwahai, and he is also the leader of the fishmen on Fishman Island, but he must also maintain enough respect for the royal family. You're welcome, Jinping. Neptune looked at Jinping with a smile. There was no king's pretense in front of Jinping, and said, "You haven't been to Dragon Palace for a long time." He turned to look at Yagami Kangdu, and said, "Thank you Yagami Kangdu for saving Otoji. I have already asked someone to prepare a banquet, please accept my thanks." "It's okay, what's wrong with Princess Otoji's injury?" Yagami Kangdu asked Neptune. Neptune smiled and said, "It's no big deal, but she rushed out to find you and was stopped by me. She will come over later. Since you were injured, let's rest first. I will stay in Dragon Palace for the time being." Yagami Kanto smiled faintly. Jinbei saw Yagami Kanto after he came to Ryugu Castle. He has been very calm, and he has no intention of doing bad things. After Neptune appeared, he was also very stable, and his heart gradually let go. However, he was still worried about Yagami Kangdu, so he asked Neptune to stay in Ryugu Castle for a while. Neptune will not refuse this. Few days later, Princess Otoji's injuries have almost recovered. 2 days ago, she learned the news from the Chambord archipelago, that Yagami Kangta killed a Tianlong person, and after a fierce battle with Admiral Kizaru, she left safely and was shocked. Not only her, but Neptune is also very shocked. The elegant and gentle Yagami Kangdu actually did such a crazy thing. That's the Dragon Man. That, Tianlongren, are you planning to kill it too? That will anger the world government to a greater extent, it's unnecessary. Odahime tries to persuade Yagami Aoto. Iori Kangdu replied calmly, "I don't have any plans to kill him immediately, but it doesn't matter to me to anger the world government." Odahime's tone was stagnant, and she noticed that Yagami Kangdu's attitude towards the Tianlong people was a little too casual. This goes on, it's easy to get into big trouble. Chapter 107. Ancient Weapons, See King Poseidon. Suddenly, Yagami Kangdu suddenly turned his head to look at Princess Yiji, and said, "You plan to save the Tianlong people, and then win the approval vote from him for the Murlocs to move ashore." Yiji was stunned for a moment, but she didn't expect that her own thoughts would be completely seen through by Yagami Kangdu. She was about to refute a little, but when she was not only persuading for this, she heard Yagami Kangdu's tone suddenly becoming a little solemn. God Kangdu stared at her, his eyes calm and deep. "Don't take it for granted, Yiji. Even if you get the signature of the Tianlong people and the consent of all the Murlocs, can you guarantee that humans will treat the Murlocs and mermen with the same attitude as you?" Ag was stunned. Yagami Kangdu continued with a cold tone, "Don't say anything, you believe that humans and Murlocs can understand each other's words. Before you have absolute strength and can guarantee the safety of your people, letting them go ashore is equivalent to its burying the entire Fishman Island." Otoji fell into silence, and Yagami Kanto's words deeply pierced his heart. Of course she knew in her heart that this was just an extravagant hope. But at least it hasn't really come to that day, it's still a dream, and there is still a possibility. But now, it was placed in front of Yagami Kangdu Kai Guago. Indeed it is. And mermen can accept peaceful coexistence with humans. Humans will definitely be able to do it, but she can't guarantee it. It is irresponsible to one's own people if it cannot be guaranteed. Judging by Yagami Aoto's previous words, it's too taken for granted. However, your Fishman Island is not completely powerless. Needless to say, Jinping's strength, Baizing's ability is also extraordinary. Yagami Kangdu softened his tone, turned his head to look at Little White Star who was playing with Nina in the distance, and smiled faintly. White Star. When Yiji heard Yagami Kangdu's words, she was slightly taken aback. Yagami Kangdu mentioned Jinpei's strength, which is easy to understand. After all, it is the king's Chiwahai. But Baizing's ability made her think she was hallucinating. Year-old 6-year-old mermaid princess have. Yagami Kangdu doesn't plan to hide Otoji, anyway. Bai Xing's abilities will awaken sooner or later. Then, let her awaken and expose her unconsciously. It is better to let Otoji protect Shirahoshi in advance. There should always be a legend on Fishman Island. Mermaid princesses who can communicate with and control the sea kings will be born on this island every once in a while. Yagami Kangdu said here. His tone changed. In the stunned eyes of Yi-ji, she said calmly, yes, that mermaid princess. Yi-ji was stunned. Unbelievably turned back and looked at the white star in the distance. For Yagami Kangdu's words, she didn't believe it. But Yagami Kangdu had no need to deceive him. But, Bai Xingxi. Before you were almost hurt by holy masquerade, she almost woke up. It is precisely because of my action that the day of her awakening has been delayed, but it will not be too long. Yagami Kangdu interrupted Otoji, looked at her seriously and said, you must know better than me what ancient weapons mean. How to choose. I am afraid you need to make up your own mind. Cold sweat broke out on Otohime's forehead. She took a deep look at Bai Xing and nodded slowly. Therefore, it is meaningless to collect insignificant signatures. The most important thing for you at the moment is to protect Bai Xing while concealing the identity of her ancient weapon. This has not only involved the safety of Fishman Island, but the whole world. Yagami Kangdu reminded Otoji calmly. Of course he wouldn't say that when he overthrew the world government, he would give the Fishman Island status a promise. With his ability, of course he can do it. But painting big cakes is not the style of Yagami Kangdu. Wake up Otohime and tell her Shiraoshi's abilities, and she will know how to deal with it next. As for whether he will use Bai Xing's power in the future, it is unknown. At least when he entered the New World and established a force comparable to the four emperors. Waking up Otohime, Yagami Kanto turned around and walked towards Shirahoshi and Nina. Seeing Iori Kangdu walking towards him, Bai Xing, who was still young, looked at Iori Kangdu with big cute eyes and said, Brother Kangdu. In a few days, Bai Xing has also become very familiar with Yagami Kangdu. Brother Kangdu, Sister Nina said that there is a forest on the land, and there is a real sky and sun. Is it true? I really want to go up and have a look. It's true. Eight Gods Kangdo smiled and said meaningfully, when you grow up, Brother Kangdo will take you to play on land. But you are still young. You need to stay on Fishman Island obediently. Bai Xing smiled happily. I can't go out now, of course. But, as long as Kangdo Ge agrees, he will definitely do it. Then agreed, Brother Kangdu must do it. Bai Xing said with a cute smile. Yagami Kanto also smiled and nodded. At the same time, Yagami Kangdu turned to look at Princess Otohime who was approaching, and said in a low voice, if it is inconvenient to notify the Whitebeard pirates when it comes to Shirahoshi, you can let me know at any time. Are you going? Otoji nodded, and also understood that as Yagami Kangdu, it was impossible to stay on Fishman Island for too long. Yagami Kangdu chuckled and raised his head, looking at the blue sky of Fishman Island. This departure must be to enter the second half of the Great Route. It is also the most important battlefield in the future, the New World. After saying goodbye to Otohime, Shirahoshi and others, Yagami Soto and Nina left Ryugu Castle and went all the way to the place where the ship was docked. There has been no ship, and it is unrealistic to rely on Yagami Sudo to cast Susano. Fortunately, Nina herself also has sailing skills, so she doesn't need to bother about sailing. Just. Yagami Kanto is a little strange. I always feel that this Nina is very familiar. Seems like I've seen it somewhere. But he is obviously coming to the world of pirates for the first time, and it is impossible to have a familiar person. However, Yagami Kangdu did not struggle with this issue. Soon they took Nina and drove a boat specially coated on Fishman Island, and the two left Fishman Island. Filu reminds you, 3 things to read, collect, recommend and share. Chapter 108, Shaking New World. 15 years of the era of the Great Pirates. New World. Yagami Kangdu was rewarded with a reward of 1 billion yuan, and soon spread throughout the New World. As the Emperor of the New World, the 4 emperors and other large and small forces naturally also received relevant information. Who can get the highest reward in the first half of the Great Route? 1 billion bounty. It can be said that since the beginning of the Great Pirate Era, and even further in history, it has never appeared. 1 billion. Even those who are as high as the 4 emperors, even those who regard the first half as paradise and the second half as hell. Big pirates who think highly of themselves, can't help but be surprised. Of course, there is another very important reason. Yagami Kangdu seems to have no power. This is what makes it even more worthy of attention. That can be tough with the naval admiral, there is no need to say much in terms of strength. If you can win over your own pirate group, your strength will be greatly increased. Billy and Bailey, well, there's an amazing kid, but don't provoke me. The 4 Emperor Ant looked at the face of Yagami Kangdu on the reward order, and grinned with a terrifying big mouth, smiling very happily. But he didn't care, he quickly threw the reward order aside, picked up the cake on the table, and ate it. Everyone knows how bad the atmosphere in the New World is. If you want to get ahead, you must survive in the cracks of the 4 emperors, which is very difficult. Who has reached 1 billion bounties in the first half will not have the ultimate goal of surviving in the cracks. It is not impossible to ban one of the 4 emperors, or even conquer the entire Great Route. However, as the 4 emperors who ruled the sea, they have encountered too many such things. Ant has also encountered too many challenges similar to the big pirates, but the result is that most of them fall into the hands of the 4 generals. As the emperor, of course, should have his own arrogance. Of the 4 emperors were not uttered by themselves. Each of the 4 emperors needs to go through countless battles and walk on countless bones before they can reach the peak. Once it will become an eternal bone, it will be the portrayal of each of the 4 emperors. As an emperor, it is natural to face the challenges of latecomers. Of the latecomers, they will only sit on the throne and watch the latecomers come to them with difficulty and lose before their desperate strength. Billion of Bailey's bounty. The other 4 emperors, Kaido of the Beasts, did not give much evaluation. After taking a sip of wine, he threw the reward order aside and grinned. If you have the guts, challenge him. After so many years, he is bored. It's been a long time since he had a fight that was enough to make him excited. I hope that this Yagami Kangdu can make him a little more interested. The little devil I've never seen before, sorry. Somewhere in the second half of the Great Flight Route, the red-haired Shanks held Yagami Kangdu's reward, his eyes twinkled and muttered to himself. Beckman, who was on the side, heard the words and said, "It's even more powerful than it was in the past. I'm afraid the position of the 4 emperors can't be so stable." Moby Dick. Due to injuries and age, Whitebeard's strength is no longer at his peak. At this moment, Ji-Yu was sitting on a large chair, drinking and watching Yagami Kangdu's reward. Kula-la-la, there's an amazing kid. The Great Pirate Era, there have been too many talented pirates. Was the first time that Whitebeard had seen someone with the strength of Yagami Kangdu. Was so young, he was very sorry for the general, and he even dared to kill the Tianlong people. This kind of boldness, Whitebeard likes very much. This guy is very courageous, and he actually dares to kill the Tianlong people. I think it would be very good to be included in our pirate group. The captain of the first team, Marco, looked at Whitebeard and said with a smile. The captain of the 3rd division, Diamond Yoja, sat below, grinned and said, "Hey, what Marco said is that our Whitebeard pirates need such bloody people." That's right. Marco laughed in agreement. Whitebeard glanced at Marco and Joe's, raised his hand, and threw the newspaper and reward into the sea. Seabed. What happened to the Tianlong people? Yagami Kangdu withdrew his gaze from Fishman Island and asked Nina. Nina said, "I won't die for the time being, but the amazing thing is that this guy's surname is Don Quixote. Don Quixote Muscarad Saint. It has the same surname as Doflamingo, and its identity is obviously affiliated to the Don Quixote family. 800 years, it is impossible for the Tianlong people to be in a single line, and Doflamingo only belongs to one of the Don Quixote branches. Oh, surname Don Quixote. Yagami Kangdu is a little surprised. I didn't expect that catching this heavenly dragon man on Fishman Island might have something to do with Brother Doflamingo. Why can Doflamingo spread the dark transactions all over the world? His strength is far less than that of the 4 emperors, and his power is far less than that of the 4 emperors. In the dark world is the core of the whole world. The most important reason is that he used to be a Tianlong person. Although this identity has lost its privileges, it is still a Tianlong person. With the identity of Tianlong people, there are so many things that can be done. Besides, Doflamingo also knows a lot of secrets about the dragons and the Holy Land. It's something that can shake the world. Tianlong people, it's more troublesome than I imagined. Nina of course understands what the identity of Tianlong people means. Yagami Kanto also understands that when he arrives in the new world, the first person to deal with is probably Doflamingo. The boat gradually left the Fishman Island, and under the control of Nina, it slowly passed through the hole at the bottom of the red soil continent. Finally, they came to the other side of the sea. Whoops! The boat finally broke out of the sea and came to a hail-covered sea. At the same time, the bubble wrapping the hull also burst and disappeared at this moment. The sky was full of hail, like raindrops, crashing against the hull. Yagami Kanto easily raised his hand, and with the first stage Susanoo, he protected the entire hull. The hailstones fell on Susanoo's big hand and shattered one after another. This is the new world. With Yagami Soto sheltering the hull, Nina also began to check the chart, as well as the advanced recording pointer she wore on her wrist. It's hard to tell what sea area this is, though there are three arrows. If you want to know which islands they are pointing to, you must first arrive at one of them to be sure. Soon, Nina decided the direction and sailed to the island with the most stable pointer. Chapter 109, The New Giant Pirates. Pop, pop, pop. As the ship continued to sail, the hail started to get bigger and bigger. There was even hail the size of a human head. This kind of hail was enough to penetrate the hull in an instant, but it was all blocked by Yagami Kangta. After an unknown time, the ship finally broke out of the hail-covered sea area. At present, in the sea area, no matter the wind speed or current, there seems to be no abnormality. It seems safe for now. Yagami Soto slowly lowered his arm, and Susanoo, who was protecting the hull, was also taken back by him. It was at the moment when Yagami Kangdu withdrew his defense that the whole ship suddenly flew up. Suddenly, it jumped into the air and leapt to dozens of meters in the air, and the hull began to tilt uncontrollably. Nina accidentally fell in the direction of Yagami Soto. Yagami Kangdu calmly stretched out his hand and embraced Nina, but instead of looking at him, he looked down at the boat. It's a sea king. Nina opened her mouth with solemn eyes. Came out of the hail sea area, he entered the sea area where the sea kings exist again, which is very strange. Logically speaking, this is not a windless belt. Sure enough, the sea area in the New World was a mess, and the first half was really like this. Paradise. Hiss. An extremely harsh neigh came from the underside of the hull, making Nina's eardrums buzz, and she couldn't help but cover it. Cover your ears. Yagami Kanto's eyes flickered, and in the second stage, Susanoo protected Nina and himself. At this moment, by the head of a giant sea king with a body size of several thousand meters, and the hull was tens of meters in length. In front of this sea king, it was as small as an ant in front of an elephant. At this time, the sea king also found the boat above his head. It squeaked, and because of this, a pair of terrifying big eyes, the pupils shifted to the top of the head. It suddenly shook its head and threw the boat up, and its huge tail twitched fiercely. A giant sea king with a body size of thousands of meters, what is the concept of the power of a tale that is enough to destroy a street in an instant? Humph. Kangdu snorted coldly, waved his arm, and the Shen Luo Tianzheng erupted directly. Boom! The terrifying repulsive force swept out and collided with the Sea King's tail, which was packed with terrifying impact. It's just obvious that Sen Luo of Yagami Kangdu is more powerful. The tail of the Sea King suddenly collapsed and screamed for a mile. The Sea Kings suffered a big loss, but they did not rage and fight against the Yagami Kangdu. Fell into the sea and ran away. Whoosh! Yagami Kanto fell back to the boat again, and controlled the boat to fall back to the sea. Leave this sea area as soon as possible, I can still protect you 3 to 535 Sea Kings, too many, too much risk. Yagami Kanto said to Nina, not heavy. In fact, it is also possible to conceal his strength, and the 8 gods Kangdu, who has an immortal body, are not afraid of long-term battles, nor are they afraid of wheel battles. Nina nodded, immediately. Turn the sails and turn the rudder, and head towards the direction of the previously planned island. This sea area seems to be the same as the Windless Belt, it is a paradise for Sea Kings. From time to time, a huge wave can be seen on the sea, which is a giant Sea King turning over. Under the bottom of the sea, there are huge black shadows appearing from time to time, which is shocking. Nina was nervous to death, and Yagami Kanto also leaned on the railing of the boat, enjoying the scenes in front of her with great fun. In his opinion, these Sea Kings are no different from pet fish. Just bigger. I saw it with my own eyes, it's very impactful, and it's quite fun. If Nina knew of Yagami Soto's thoughts, she would probably roar on the spot. That is a Sea King. Just as the ship sailed for another distance, a vague figure appeared on the right side of the route. Neptune. No, there seems to be a ship. Nina stared at the sea over there, her eyes flashing with a look of uncertainty. He took out his long telescope to confirm, and then he blurted out in shock. Some people are fighting against the Sea Kings, but if you want to talk about people, they are a little too big. They should be giants. In the eyes of the thousands of Sea Kings, their ships are no different from ants. On the left has a length of several hundred meters, close to a medium-sized Sea King. Giant Sea Kings. When Yagami Aoto heard Nina's words, he immediately became interested. Without hesitation, he looked at Nina and said, put the boat over there and see what's going on over there. Okay. Nina nodded, changed course, and sailed in the direction of the shadow. Although staying in this sea area is very dangerous, but with Yagami Kangdu in charge, Nina is nothing to worry about. Soon, the dark shadow gradually became clearer. Is a medium-sized Sea King with a body size of about 300 or 400 meters, and is fighting with 555 giants on a ship. To be precise, it should be those giants who accidentally drove the ship into this sea area and were attacked by the Sea Kings. Fortunately, this Sea King can't be called a large Sea King, plus they are all giants, and they can fight against them in a short time. However, looking at their confrontational posture, it was really difficult and quite reluctant. Those giants are all over 20 meters tall, but in front of the medium-sized Sea Kings, they are still insignificant. Even though they were all giant warriors with considerable victories, they were still very reluctant to resist. Helding, we must think of a solution as soon as possible. If we continue like this, we may be buried here. The new giant pirate navigator slashed the Sea Kings with a knife, and then shouted at the captain Helding on the side. Boatman Statham also knocked a mace on the head of a Sea King. But not only did he fail to cause damage to the Sea Kings, but he was knocked back and flew out. Damn Rhodes, you didn't take a good look at the course, and actually drove into a sea full of Sea Kings. Although the giants are brave and belligerent, they won't fight to the death with a. What's more, it's at sea, and if the ship is damaged, they'll really be finished. However, the current situation, it's not. They don't want to go. But the Sea Kings in front of him have been completely provoked. Constantly launching attacks and suppressing them, Amen didn't give him a chance to escape at all. Helding roared angrily, and threw out a fist, which was able to stop the tail of the Sea King. His strength is the strongest among all, and he can still suppress the Sea Kings. However, this Sea King is a monster with two tails. The first tail was blocked by Helding, but the second tail slammed down from Helding's side and smashed into the big ship. Philu reminds you, 3 things to read, collect, recommend and share. Chapter 110. Established, the 8 Gods Pirates. Crap. Hurry up. When the giants saw this, they immediately panicked. Someone tried to rush up to resist, but it was too late. If the ship is destroyed, they can only drift around with the wood in their arms. Life and death were determined by the sky, and right between the electric light and flint, a continuous sonic boom swept over from a distance. Monstrous waves were lifted up and slammed on the Sea Kings. The Sea Kings that several giants could not deal with were directly blown away by a punch. Woo! The Neptune that was hit hard became even more crazy under the severe pain. He slapped his tail recklessly, rolled up Helding, opened his terrifying mouth, and was about to swallow Helding into his stomach. Helding struggled, barely breaking free from the shackles of the tail. But the whole body is in the air, and there is no way to use it. The whole person involuntarily fell into the huge mouth of the Sea King, and it was about to be torn apart by the terrifying teeth. And at this moment, the space beside Neptune was constantly rippling, a figure suddenly appeared, and a punch hit Neptune's head. Ohm! A punch with the blue steam of Bamandungia easily shattered the head of this Sea King. Under the unbelievable eyes of Helding and the others, the Sea Kings, who were unable to fight with their hard work, turned into corpses and fell into the sea. Looking at the Sea Kings quickly sinking into the sea, Helding quickly recovered. Looking at the Yagami Kingdu floating in the sky, with a grateful expression on his face, "Thank you for your help." The other giants also responded and did not climb on the boat. Instead, they all showed kind smiles, looking at Yagami Kingdu's eyes, full of gratitude. If it weren't for the 8 Gods Kingdu, they probably wouldn't have survived. 4. The frank character of the giants, Yagami Soto is a benefactor. You, welcome. Yagami Kingdu smiled slightly, but an inexplicable look flashed in the depths of his eyes. Helding, he has heard that the other giants must be the 5-member 5 groups of the new giant pirates formed by Helding. Compared to humans, giants have much longer lifespans. Is hundreds of years old at every turn, and the character is frank and open and belligerent, and almost everyone is a warrior. Soon, Helding and others climbed back to the boat. Doyunina and others also came to Helding's giant pirate ship. This is the boatman Statham, he is the navigator lord, that is our chef Goldbagu, and the beautiful ship Dr. Jeers. Hireding introduced them one by one, and then performed the etiquette of the giant clan to the 8 Gods Kingdu, saying, "My name is Hireding, I would like to thank my benefactor again. Just call me Yashin Kingdu, just do it, don't be so polite." Yagami Kingdu smiled, compared to the intriguing, conspiratorial humans. He actually quite likes the frank character of the giants. The only pity is that the giants are too big. In the eyes of the real strong, it is equivalent to moving the target. Goldbagu, the chef of the new giant pirate, quickly made delicious dishes such as barbecue, and served Yagami Sudo and others with wine brought from his hometown of Elbath. Although the tableware is a bit large and the portion is a bit large, the taste is good. Well, the benefactor is called Yagami Kingdu. I seem to have heard this name somewhere. Rhodes seemed a little incapable of drinking, and after drinking a few bowls of wine, he became a little drunk. The beautiful ship Dr. Jeers looked at Rhodes and couldn't help but say, "Idiot, isn't the benefactor the one who was recently offered a bounty of 1 billion Bailey, who regretted Admiral Kizaru, and got out of his body? I didn't see it until 2 days ago." To the newspaper. As she spoke, she looked at Yagami Kingdu with respect, and said, "The strength of the benefactor is really terrifying." They worshipped the Blue Ghost and the Red Ghost, who were the giant pirates who roamed the world hundreds of years ago, only had a bounty of 100 million Baileys. of the new giant pirate is precisely to revive the glory of the giant pirate and let the name of the giant pirate spread throughout the world again. PFF'd. Billy and Bailey's. Rhodes sprayed Goldbagoo's face with a sip of wine, and the slightly drunken taste instantly sobered up. Originally, he was full of respect for Yagami Kanto, who defeated the Sea Kings with one move, but this time he became even more respectful. Giants are a race that respects power very much. When Yagami Soto, Nina and the others were on Fishman Island, they already knew that they would definitely be rewarded by the Navy. 1 billion Bailey is a bit unexpected, but it is reasonable. Whether it's killing the Tianlong people, or pity the General Kizaru, it's all worth this number. If you kill the Tianlong people, you will escape calmly under the command of the Admiral of the Navy. Be really strange if you still can't get a bounty of 1 billion. Captain Yagami Kangdu, toast to you. Rhodes picked up the huge wine bowl, and spoke solemnly at Yashin Kangdu, suffocating the big bowl of wine with a proud mouth. Yagami Kangdu didn't refuse, picked up the small wine bowl he brought from his boat, and took a sip. Speaking of which, Hireding picked up the wine bowl and looked at Kangdu, the 8 gods. His purpose is to restore the prestige of the giant pirates. Yagami Kangdu not only saves their benefactor, but also possesses great strength. Great pirates with a bounty of 1 billion, if they follow behind such figures, their goals will soon be achieved. As a giant, even if Yagami Kangta might refuse, he will not hide his thoughts. Just when he was about to say it, Yagami Kangdu suddenly spoke up. What are your plans next? If you want to revive the reputation of the giant soldier pirates, you might as well join me. Yagami Kangdu has already seen Hireding's thoughts. The giants are not good at covering up, almost all of them are written on their faces. Treating giants is different from treating humans, and there is no need to maintain absolute prestige. Let the other party propose to join, and it is better for him to propose. The giants advocate strength and kindness, and now they have both kindness and power. Everything is a matter of course. Hireding did not expect that Yagami Kangdu would take the initiative to issue an invitation, which was different from his active request. It is enough to show that Yagami Kangta attaches great importance to them. He didn't hesitate at all, immediately. Holding the wine bowl, he said, "Of course I am willing to join. Even if we are still weak, we are willing to do everything for our benefactor, including our lives." Cheers! Rhodes and the others also all showed awe, and all held up their wine bowls. Of them and Captain Helding must be the same. Besides, Yagami Kangdu's strength is enough to conquer them. Chapter 111, The 100 Beast Pirates. 8 Gods. Kangdu took the wine bowl and put it in front of him, smiled slightly, and said with deep eyes, "It's not enough to sacrifice my life, I will take you to surpass the prestige of the giant soldier pirates." While speaking, Yagami Kanto drank the wine. The spicy wine flows down the throat, it seems that people can't help but burn their blood. Hireding and the others also drank together and officially joined the command of Yashin Kangdu. However, Helding thought of a key question. "Benefactor, what is the name of your pirate group?" Iori Kangdu was slightly stunned, but this was ignored. "For the time being, it's just me and Nina, and we haven't given names yet." "Well, then you should take one," Helding suggested. "As a pirate group, of course you have to have your own name. Only in this way can we attract more powerful beings. Let's call it the 8 Gods Pirates." Yagami Kangdu didn't care about this and said casually, "Good name, then we will be under the command of the 8 Gods Pirates." Helding laughed and drank heavily. "Don't worry, if there is a battle, call us at any time, and we are always ready for orders." Hireding and the others spoke solemnly at Yashin Kangdu. Giants have never been afraid of fighting, and now they see a and wait to fight for the 8 Gods. Kangdu immediately. Yagami Kangdu nodded, jumped, and returned to his boat. At this time, both ships had already left the sea where the Sea Kings were wandering, and entered an area with relatively turbulent ocean currents. After Yagami Kangdu explained the trivial matters, he temporarily separated from the giant soldier pirate. Their power is not yet used, and they are too large and too conspicuous. Looking at the ship of the giant soldier pirate that was gradually moving away, Yagami Soto stood in front of the deck, his eyes flickering, and he didn't know what to think. And just as Yagami Kangdu was thinking about it, the current at the bottom of the boat suddenly became extremely intense. Pushed the whole ship to accelerate sharply and sailed fast towards the distance. Yagami Kangdu came back to his senses and frowned slightly. Just as she was about to control the ship to fly, Nina, who was standing at the top of the post, suddenly put down her long telescope and said, "Captain, there is an island ahead." Yagami Aoto heard Nina's words and looked in the direction Nina was looking at. "I saw that as the current pushed the ship forward, a blurry shadow gradually appeared in that direction." However, the current at the bottom of the boat was obviously not so obedient. When the shadow of the island gradually became clear, it suddenly turned sharply, almost throwing Nina away from the boat. Yagami Kangdu lifted his foot and quelled the current. Looking at the shadow of the island that had become clear, Yagami Kangdu said, "Since it's already here, let's go." West coast of Icefield Island. Yagami Kanto and his party docked here, and the weather on the island was extreme. There is still a spring breeze blowing on the sea, but the island is a white snow scene, and when you step on it, you will feel the icy cold. In the New World, it doesn't take that long to record the magnetic force of the pointer. Most of the islands only take half a day, but you still need to land on the island. The climate in the New World is a lot weirder than it was in the first half. Nina exhaled a breath of mist and draped a white coat over her body. Putting on a thick velvet hat, he followed Yagami Kangdu out of the boat. Yagami Kanto also put on a brown fur coat. With his physique, he can completely resist this severe cold, but he doesn't want to make it too conspicuous. Yagami Aoto and Nina all the way, and soon entered the island. The environment inside the island is different from what they imagined. It is not because of the cold place that it is sparsely populated, but it is quite lively. The people who live here are all muscular and can carry huge logs to walk on the streets at will. Yagami Aoto and Nina were quite conspicuous in such a crowd even though they were wearing coats. When entering the town, Yagami Kangdu's eyes flashed for a while. Just came to the world of pirates, but he didn't care too much. Winter wind blew, it just blew the ice and snow off the flag, revealing the pattern behind it. It was a strange pattern like a bull's head and a skull. In this world, this is the flag that almost everyone knows. Because it represents one of the 4 emperors, the site of the beast pirates. Yagami Kangdu stared at the town and murmured, but he still didn't stop. Even if this is the beast pirates, the exploration still has to be explored. If there is something good, you should grab it or grab it. How could the 4 emperors dare to offend the world government, let alone the 100 beast pirates? Yagami Aoto and Nina hid in a remote street and quickly explored the town. Although the town is small, it has a large population. And this island produces a special kind of ice stone, which is of high value, so there is a lot of wealth on the island. But today's Yagami Kangdu is not interested in money. Suddenly, when the two felt that the search was almost over and they were about to head to the direction of the ship's berth, Yagami Kangdu frowned slightly. After eating the divine fruit of the world tree, his perception has reached a level similar to that of seeing and hearing domineering. Can run the reincarnation eye and detect all movements in a wide range. Just now, he found that where they moored the ship, there was a ship of the beast pirates approaching. East coast of Glacier Island. Keen, one of the officers of the 3 disasters of the 100 beast pirates, was standing with his hands folded in front of his chest, standing in the snow not far from the shore, watching the large amount of treasure sent by the people on Icefield Island. Ice stone is a very valuable thing, and as a natural ice stone mine, this island will naturally attract the greed of countless people. However, the 100 beast pirates designated this place as a territory, so no one would dare to snatch it. As a condition, they need to pay tribute to the beast pirates every 6 months. Although the amount of tribute is very large, compared to the situation of crazy looting by various pirate forces, of course, it is better to be sheltered by the beast pirates. This time, the money is a little less. Keen walked slowly to several boxes, opened them and counted them, and asked lightly. The leader of Binyuan town next to him scratched the back of his head embarrassedly and said, "I am very sorry, Lord Keen, the production of ice stones has not been very good recently." All right. Keen interrupted him and said impatiently, "Don't say these nonsense. I know, but if you dare to deceive us, you know what will happen." "Don't dare." The leader of Icefield Town bowed his head in fear. In this sea, the pirate group that you can't provoke the most is the Beast Pirates. The captain of the 100 Beasts Pirates, 100 Beasts Kaido, is a terrifying being who fears nothing and has the name of immortality. Philo reminds you, 3 things to read, collect, recommend and share. Chapter 112, Punch After Punch, tyrannize the cadres of the 3 disasters. Provoke white beard, red hair, hide in the first half, or other places, you will not continue to chase. But if you provoke Kaido, it's useless to hide in the Navy headquarters. Kaido will do whatever it takes to rush into the naval headquarters and kill you. So far, Kaido has done a lot of crazy things. But no matter the Navy or the other 4 emperors, no one could kill him. No one of the 4 emperors who can't be provoked the most. This is the consensus of the major powers at sea. And just when Keen led his subordinates to accept the tribute money from Icefield Town. In a direction not far away, Yagami Soto and Nina were standing there. Divine power distorted the space, and the sky was so dark that no one could detect or see them. That's Silver Ape, Keen, the leader of the 100 Beasts Pirates, with a bounty of 350 million Baileys. Nina looked at the majestic Keen, who was more than 3 meters tall, her eyes flashing, and she said, "Any 4 Emperor pirates are basically composed of senior cadres, ordinary cadres, and a large number of lower-level members. The senior cadres in the Whitebeard Pirates are the top captains. In the 100 Beasts Pirates, there are 3 disasters, and in the Pirates, there are 4 generals. The bounties for these senior cadres are almost all over 800 million. As for the ordinary cadres under it, the bounty is not the same. Usually between 200 million and 600 million, less than 200 million are squad leaders or lower-level members. Below 100 million, it basically belongs to the bottom layer. Of course, even the bottom members are still the official crew members of the 4 Emperor Pirates. The 4 Emperor's pirates are very powerful. In addition to official members, there are also many informal members. Strictly speaking, these people are considered to be the bottom of the bottom. A cadre of the 100 Beasts Pirates. Yagami Kangdu looked at Keen, who was not far away, and there was a glimmer of light in his eyes. Originally, I thought about whether I would encounter the 3 disasters, but it is indeed a bit of a fuss if the 3 disasters personally dispatched the collection of tributes. If you want to do something with him, Kaido will be disturbed." Nina stood beside her and spoke in a low voice. She also had a general understanding of Yagami Aoto's character. Hearing Yagami Kangdu's tone, she guessed what Yagami Kangdu wanted to do. Smiled slightly, his eyes flashing red with cold light. Since killing the Tianlong people, it is equivalent to showing oneself in front of the world. Too sorry not to do something earth-shattering. What the world expects of him. A bounty of 350 million Baileys. Provoking the Beast Pirates is enough to make others look at him. The words fell, and the divine power space was distorted. Yagami Kangdu entered the different dimension, but in the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Keen and the others. Punch is just an ordinary straight punch. Boom! This simple punch fell, and the air suddenly burst into ripples. When everyone couldn't react, he fell head-to-head to Keen. Of the Beast's pirates, Keen is certainly not weak enough to be taken by anyone. Almost at the moment when Yagami Kangdu appeared above his head, he subconsciously realized that something was wrong. Regardless of whether it was his own fault or not, it exploded. He trusted his intuition and saved himself many times over the years. Roar. Animal type ape fruit. The ability of the silver ape form was instantly stimulated by him. The whole person turned into a head. The silver-backed giant ape, in the roar, folded his arms in front of him. At the same time, the armed color burst out with domineering, spreading both arms. Yagami Kingdo's fist landed on his arms, and an extremely loud muffled sound erupted. At the same time, Keen's ape-like face suddenly burst into blue veins, and he was under enormous pressure. Ah! Without being able to resist for even a second, the ice field under Keen's feet couldn't bear it first. Collapsed on the spot, and he was directly punched by Yagami Kingdo, directly smashing into his younger brother. New World offers a bounty of 350 million 3 Bailey pirates, which is fundamentally different from the first half. In terms of strength alone, it is not at the same level, but it was still won by Yagami Kingdo's punch. 8-God Kingdo's current strength is that even a general can be tough, at least a lot stronger than the 3 disaster generals. To deal with such cadres under the hands of the 3 disasters, it is naturally easy to capture them. What happened? Keen was blasted into the ground, and everyone around him started to exclaim. Whether it's the pirates of the Beast Pirates, or the natives of Icefield Town, they all changed. Under the terrifying wind pressure, he flew backwards. When the wind and snow dissipated, they could see the figure of Yagami Kingdo clearly. Slowly walking down from the sky, towards the hole where Keen was buried alive. Someone dared to do something to Lord Keen. Whether it was the natives of Icefield Town or the members of the Beast Pirates under Keen's command, they were all stunned. They are the members of the Beast's Pirates, and Keen is the cadre of the Beast's Pirates. Who is so daring to fight Keen on the territory of the Beast's Pirates? Which lunatic is that? Such disregard. Who is it? Inside the ape-shaped pothole, an angry roar came out. Covered in blood, jumped out of the pothole. He was embarrassed, and his eyes were full of anger. But almost as soon as he jumped out of the pothole, Yagami Kingdo's attack arrived again. Still the same straight punch as before, fell directly towards his head. Keen's face changed wildly, trying to dodge but couldn't do it at all. You can only fold your arms on your chest again to stimulate the armed color and domineering resistance. The whole person was blasted into the pothole again, and the ice cubes splashed. This time, the shattered ice layer spread out in all directions, directly causing a terrifying crack like a spider web in an area of tens of meters in a radius, causing countless people to be horrified. That guy seems to be the Yagami Kingdo who killed the Tianlong people recently. At this time, someone recognized Yagami Kingdo's Mu Sunshine. Although Yagami Kingdo has just entered the world of pirates, the news of offering a reward of 1 billion and killing the Tianlong people has already spread throughout the New World. Some people's foreheads were full of cold sweat, and their eyes were full of fear and horror. As members of the Beast Pirates, they have always attacked others, and no one has dared to attack them. Of Yashin Kingdo was unprecedented. Animal fruit. The vitality and toughness are really strong. 2 consecutive punches smashed Keen into the ice layer twice. Yagami Kingdo found that Keen was still alive, and said in a calm tone. If it were replaced by a normal fruitless existence, or some kind of superhuman type, he would have been seriously injured by these 2 punches. Animals have high vitality, defense, and toughness. Keen resisted hard, and although he was also seriously injured, he had already shown the difference. Boom! The ice layer cracked and shattered, and Keen's figure rushed out of the ice crater. He fell on the cracked ice and panted violently, looking into the eyes of Yagami Kingdo. In addition to anger, there is more fear. He also recognized the identity of Yagami Aoto. However, this doesn't mean that Yagami Kingdo's attack means no need to pay any price. He can be provoked by others, but the majesty of the Beast Pirates does not allow anyone to challenge him. Chapter 113. Provoke the Beast Pirates and kill the Silver Ape Keen. The anger in Keen's eyes was about to burst out. Looking at the 8 gods Kangdu, he said with murderous intent, "Do you think that if you kill the Tianlong people, you will be able to be arrogant in the territory of our beast pirates?" In normal times, Keen would have rushed up to kill Yagami Soto. But there is no way. He was keenly aware that he was not the opponent of Yagami Kanto. Otherwise, the people who provoked their 100 beast pirates would have died long ago. Yagami Kangdu didn't care about Keen's anger, and said calmly, "I heard that the 100 beast pirates are very powerful, practice courage." Keen. The natives of Icefield Town and the members of the 100 beast pirates also all looked blank. All of them looked at Iori Kangdu in disbelief. For this reason, it is better to say that they were deliberately trying to find fault with the beast pirates. 64 palms of 8 trigrams empty palms. Figure of Yagami Kangdu flickered, and chakras from all the acupuncture points in his body spurted out. Coming to Keen, a brazen offensive swept out. Keen's pupils shrank, and he quickly jumped up high. Trying to avoid Yagami Kangdu's attack, he immediately waved his fist as big as a casserole and launched a counterattack. Ape King Gun. This punch brought the speed and strength of the animal system into full play. The domineering bonus of the armed color is simply, regardless of power or control, they are far from those in the first half. Supernovas can compare. In the face of Keen's violent fist, Yagami Kangdu performed gossip. Is released from the chakra points in the body. Then it makes a circular rotation like a top, which can rebound all physical attacks. Boom! The jet black armed color attached to Keen's fist slammed into the blue shield formed by Yagami Kanto's release. The terrifying rebound force made Keen's body uncontrollable, accompanied by a click. The sound of bone cracking flew out backwards. Master Keen. When the members of the 100 Beasts pirates saw this scene, their faces were full of horror, and they couldn't believe the facts in front of them. Even if Yagami Kangdu offered a bounty as high as 1 billion, but after all, he was a newcomer who had just entered the new world. And a large factor among these billions, they all think that it was caused by killing the Tianlong people. Keen is different, he is the cadre of the beast pirates with a bounty as high as 350 million 3 Bailey. I have been fighting in the new world for more than 10 years, and my name and bounty are all based on strength. Now. Didn't take a moment for the two to fight, and it ended in a fiasco for Keen, who highly respected the officials of the 100 Beasts pirates, feel even more fear and horror in their hearts. But, damn, whose arms were twisted in a weird way, rushed up with another swing of his legs. He tried to regain some face, but was turned away by Yagami Kangdu and easily resisted. 2 feet collided, and Keen flew upside down. A bang, it hit the ice wall in the distance. Knocked the ice wall out of every inch of crack, and even the form of it was knocked out. He vomited blood and looked at Yagami Kanto, who was walking peacefully. His face was full of resentment and anger. Don't think that if you beat me, you have the qualification to be arrogant in front of the beast pirates. Lord Kaido, you will definitely pay the price. He has seen arrogant supernovas like Yagami Kangdu. I thought that if I conquered the first half, I conquered the whole sea. But in the end, there will be no exceptions, and all will fall before the unshakable throne of the 4 emperors. Yagami Kangdu, this supernova that suddenly appeared, although a bit special, is incredibly strong. But compared to their imperial beast Kaido, it must be the difference between heaven and earth. And, Yagami Kangdu will definitely pay the price for his arrogance. You're afraid you won't see that day. Yagami Kangdu said with a smile, smashing Keen's head with 1 foot. At the same time, the system prompt sounded in his ear. Successfully kill Keen and get 100 bait. Of the system's prompt made Iori Kangdu a little surprised. It hasn't appeared for a long time, and even what was previously obtained in Naruto World was emptied after coming to Pirate. That is to say, the 100 bait obtained by killing Keen is currently all. Just when Yagami Kangdu was thinking, the surrounding air froze. Silence. Deathly silence. Torturing Keen and killing Keen are not the same concept at all. Yagami Kanto kills Keen. Neither the natives of Icefield Town nor the members of the 100 Beast Pirates ever thought of such a situation. Unexpectedly, someone dared to provoke their 100 Beast Pirates, and even killed Ginzan Keen. Crazy, madman. Thinking of the scene of Kaido's anger, many people's inner fears flooded into their hearts. Seeing Yagami Kangdu with a calm face from beginning to end, as if he didn't care about anything, everyone in the 100 Beast Pirates didn't know what to say. People who have never seen Kaido's horror, don't know what kind of hell it is. I am, what kind of person I have saved. Nina appeared from the snow not far away with a shocked look on her face. Even if he saw Yagami Kangdu with his own eyes, he brutally killed the Tianlong people, and even felt sorry for Admiral Kizaru of the Navy. But now, she still finds it difficult to adapt. Of course, what she didn't know herself was that there was this little bit of excitement. In her bones, she is unwilling to be an ordinary person, and she was only forced by life before. Now, following Yagami Kangdu, she sees a different future. Even before, the Beast Pirates shivered when they heard it. Now that their cadres were killed, Nina was not afraid, but a little excited. With the 8 gods Kangdu around, what about the 4 emperors? When they came to the New World, it was inevitable that they would overthrow the 4 emperors. The rest of the 100 Beasts Pirates, Yagami Kangdu picked up those with a bounty and killed them. Of course, along the way, a few people who were beaten were left to give Nina the courage to contact her. Once in danger, he will personally go up to make up for the knife. Ultimately, apart from killing Keen and getting 100 bait, nothing at all. But fortunately, Yagami Kangdu generally understood the way to obtain bait in the pirate world. Kill at least 4 Emperor cadres. In addition, on the ship of the Beast Pirates, there were no treasures, big sharp knives, devil fruits and the like. Yagami Soto is still very interested in devil fruits. Just a pity that the Beast Pirates are not a force that can take out devil fruits casually. After killing the people of the Beast Pirates, the magnetic force of the recording pointer has also been fully stored. Yagami Kanto took Nina back to the ship and set sail away from the Icefield Island. Philo reminds you, 3 things to read, collect, recommend and share. Chapter 114, Flying Sky Pirates, the legendary Big Pirates. Somewhere in the sea. Of the 100 Beast Pirates is sailing slowly on the sea. The sea is warm and sunny and the weather is good. But the air was stagnant, and the atmosphere of the entire main ship was extremely depressed. Keen. The beast Kaido is sitting cross-legged on the deck, with a reward order placed in front of him. With the image of Yagami Kangdu, a bounty of 1 billion Bailey, clearly printed under the head. As the captain of the Beast Pirates, he must not remember the members of the bottom and the bottom. But for the 3 disasters Jack and others, as well as Keen, the backbone of the Beast Pirates, I have some impressions. Beside Kaido, many members of the Beast Pirates stood beside him in panic. Head was full of cold sweat, and the atmosphere was too suffocating. Gouda Gouda. Beast Kaido lowered his face, and after being silent for a few seconds, he picked up the jug beside him and poured wine. During the whole process, no one dared to speak. It wasn't until Kaido put down the wine gourd, a person hiding in the darkness not far away, that he slowly made a sound. Voice was very low and depressed, full of murderous intent, and said, I am afraid that most of the bounty of 1 billion Bailey is because of the Tianlong people. To fight against the generals of the Yellow Monkey, that is, to find face for the Tianlong people. Such people have provoked our Beast Pirates, and they have no choice but to die at the bottom of the sea. Lord Kaido, please allow me to take a trip in person. He is one of the 3 major disasters of the Beast Pirates after Kaido. Holy Land Mary Joa. Somewhere in front of the Dragon Man's mansion, a Dragon Man was furious. He is the father of Holy Muscarad, and his son is missing at the bottom of the sea, and he is naturally furious. What are the people in the government and the navy doing for food and you guys? Do and hurry up and find someone for me. Yes. The top Navy officers in front of him were all covered in cold sweat. As for the few Zeros, they responded with a low face and said, "You should have the life card of the Holy Young Master Masquerade, please give it to us, and we will find the Holy Young Master Masquerade soon." Life card. Holy Masquerade's father frowned. He really did this kind of thing, or all the dragon people did this kind of thing. But basically I never took it out and used it, and now I can't remember where I put it. But he also knew the effect of this thing. Without this, wanting to find Holy Masquerade would be a needle in a haystack. Although he was angry in his heart, he still snorted and walked into his mansion. "Wait here, I'll look for it. The world government also has preservation. If we can't find it, we can go to the government to get it." A certain world official lowered his head and spoke. Saint Masquerade's father turned his head and shouted, "Then what are you waiting for? Hurry up and find someone for me, you bastards." "Yes, yes." The world officials responded again and again, and quickly left with Zero, disappearing into the street. High altitude. That is almost cloudy, and apart from the birds that can survive at such high altitudes, there are only white clouds left. And right in the cloud, a huge black shadow suddenly appeared. Slowly moving in the sky, it is a few huge islands. The ability to normally float the islands in the sky is the power of the superhuman fluttering fruit. Its owner is one of the legendary great pirates. Golden Lion Shiki, almost caught in the storm again. On one of the islands, the Golden Lion was standing on a hillside looking up at the sky with a very unhappy expression on his face. His ability is most afraid of storms, which can easily cause problems on the island. And just when the Golden Lion was worried about the weather again, a subordinate suddenly ran over in a hurry, with a look of shock on his face. "Lord Ski, we found a ship flying in the sky." "Oh, that must be mine." The Golden Lion subconsciously wanted to say that it was his own ship. But in the middle of the sentence, he suddenly realized that he didn't control the boat to fly in the sky. The slightly surprised Golden Lion, immediately asked for directions. The whole person crossed an arc in the air, quickly flew to the edge of the island, and looked into the distance. Over there, amidst the mist, a ship could be vaguely seen. The shadow of the ship was flying obliquely towards the sky, and the Golden Lion was sure that the ship was not his. It's kind of interesting. The fruit of gravity is still the fruit of gravity. In the eyes of the Golden Lion, a curious look flashed. As one of the legends of Roger and others who ruled the sea with Whitebeard, a ship flying in the sky would not shock him. That can make the island float in the sky forever as his fluttering fruit. Whoosh! After a little thought, the Golden Lion still chased after the ship. The ability to control the ship to fly into the sky is very suitable for his flying pirates. If you can become his subordinate, you can share a lot of things for him. The other side. The Golden Lion noticed the existence of the ship, and Yagami Kanto and others naturally discovered their existence earlier. Nina's face was full of shock. This is the ability of the fluttering fruit. Nina stared at the islands flying in the air and couldn't help but speak in a deep voice. In her memory, she once heard that a certain pirate could float islands in the sky. And that pirate's name has become a legend so far. That's right, the fluttering fruit of the Golden Lion Shiki. Yagami Kangdu looked at the large island with a very relaxed gaze. But Nina, you can't do this kind of peace of mind. Golden Lion Shiki. The only escape from the Grand Prison Advanced City. With Whitebeard, Roger dominated the existence before the era of the great pirates. He once invaded the Navy headquarters alone and fought against Garp and Sengoku. Destroyed nearly half of the naval headquarters, and was finally defeated. Every deed is earth-shattering. Looking at the islands, Yagami Kangdu's eyes flickered, but he did not speak. The Golden Lion had a very high bounty back then. After being caught in the Push City, the reward was cancelled, but after the jailbreak, the reward was offered again. Bounty is not as much as before, but it still reaches the height of 1.7 billion. The bounty of 1.7 billion. The meaning behind this is worthy of caution. However, at present, the Golden Lion Shiki is temporarily out of his consideration. But just as Yagami Kangdo's ship continued to fly upwards and was about to separate from the island of the Golden Lion, figure pierced through the clouds and rushed through. Chapter 115. Fierce Battle, Golden Lion Shiki. Someone's coming. It's fast. Nina looked at the figure coming from the lightning, and her face became tense. Almost the moment she blurted out in shock, the figure landed steadily on the deck of the ship. Gia ha 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 ha. It's a very good ability to make the ship fly. Who is your captain? The Golden Lion, who landed on the boat, grinned with a cigar in his mouth. Although there is no such thing as a tyrannical domineering, but that the aura that belongs to the legendary pirates is also fully revealed in an instant. However, under the protection of Yagami Sudo, Nina did not feel that strong oppression at all. I even looked at the Golden Lion Shiki and thought whether it was exaggerated by the rumors. And looking at the uninvited Golden Lion, Yagami Kangdo stood there, his eyes calm and did not respond. The Golden Lion looked at Yagami Kangdo and narrowed his eyes slightly. As a legendary pirate, of course he can tell whether a person is strong or not. In particular, the Yagami Kangdo in front of him felt very familiar. Yagami Sudo, who has a bounty of 1 billion Baileys. Such a person is enough to make him pay attention. When he saw Yagami Kangdo, he recognized it. I thought it was an unknown person, but I didn't expect it to be a little famous pirate. For him, it was a pleasant surprise. In his heart did not go out, but instead increased even more. Only such a character is worthy of his Golden Lion's flying sky pirates. Dare to kill the Tianlong people, it is not small. Gia ha 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 ha, I appreciate you very much, how about joining my flying sky pirates? After the Golden Lion stared at Kingu Iori, he suddenly grinned. Immediately afterwards, he raised a hand and made a fist in front of him, saying, if you join forces with me, this sea will be our world sooner or later. Since he was imprisoned in the advanced city, the former old men have basically fallen apart. There are few who still follow him, and they are in the state of bare commander. Even now, his subordinates don't even have a single combat power that he can handle. Pirates with a bounty of 1 billion, regardless of strength or fame, are eligible to join his pirate group. Moreover, it can become a sharp weapon in his hands. It is indeed my goal to control the sea, but this world is not shared with others. Yagami Kangdo spoke calmly. Even under the momentum brought by the Golden Lion, there was no movement or change in the slightest. Hey! Hearing Yagami Kangdo's neat refusal, even some arrogant words, the Golden Lion suddenly snorted. Putting down his fists, he held his head high, and said, even if you are not afraid of me, but you want to become the overlord of the entire sea and have not found a favorable alliance, do you think you can deal with those 4 guys by yourself? Nature. Yagami Kangdo responded calmly. The Golden Lion stared at Yagami Kangdo, and suddenly raised his head and laughed. A burst of, Gia ha 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 ha, echoed in the clouds here. At the same time, a violent chaos suddenly swept away in all directions. Domineering. Almost. In an instant, the surrounding clouds were severely affected. As if a vortex was stirred up, it felt like the sky was falling apart. This tyrannical arrogance is extremely terrifying, but Yagami Kangdo is still indifferent. Even, under the protection of Yagami Kanto, Nina doesn't care about Shiki's domineering arrogance. The copyright of the novel resource belongs to the original author. The text is only for personal study and trial reading. Please delete it within 24 hours after downloading. Please support subscribing to Genuine Novels and refuse piracy. This novel was first published by Dragon. Feilu's novel internal group 1,142,529,731. More wonderful Feilu novels are in the hands of the group owner. Welcome to the group. Feeling the slight vibration and pressure from the body surface, Yagami Kingdu murmured in his heart. This is the second time he has encountered the tyrannical domineering. Looking at the 8 gods Kangdu, the golden lion gradually stopped laughing. The whole person slowly floated up, looking down at Yagami Kangdu. Being able to maintain such composure in the face of my tyrannical arrogance, you are already very good. But, it's just not bad. If you want to conquer the sea, then defeat me first. Even the golden lion himself is sure that he can't beat Whitebeard. Of course, I cannot despise the arrogance of Yagami Kangdu. But he knows very well the mentality of a newcomer like Yagami Kangdu who has only just risen up. It's normal to be arrogant and arrogant. Only after experiencing failure can you understand the gap between you and the real strong. To restrain that arrogant heart. Put away your arrogance and face the real powerhouse. A roar, the golden lion moved to the midair dozens of meters high. His eyes were indifferent and emotionless, and he raised one leg and swept it sharply. The famous sword Withered Wood, which replaced his calf, suddenly burst out with a terrifying sword energy, cutting across the ship directly below. This sword energy made Yagami Kangdu couldn't help but look sideways. As expected of a legendary figure, his strength should not be underestimated. Without a doubt. Before the Golden Lion was locked in the Push City, he was definitely a great swordsman, no less than eagle-eyed. The purpose of this sword was not to destroy Yagami Kanto and others. Just rushing to the boat, trying to make Yagami Kangdu realize the gap between him and the strong, and to make him feel the heart of surrender. But surrender to the strong or something, such a mentality will never appear in Yagami Kangdu. Whoosh! Almost at the moment when the Golden Lion slashed, Yagami Kangdu flew through the air. The eyes in the eyes were calm and indifferent, and suddenly a palm slammed out, slamming into the sword energy. This kind of slash at the level of a great swordsman, the 8 gods Kangdu's Bagua palm is enough to compete. Boom! The huge golden sword energy collided with Yagami Kangdu's palm. The two forces were stalemate for a moment, and the huge golden sword energy was unable to maintain its perfect arc. It twisted and broke from the middle, scraped the sides of the hull, and fell into the clouds below. Yagami Kanto floated in the air, looking up at the golden lion in the sky. He slowly retracted his fist, his eyes calm. It seems that with your ability, you can't show what the so-called strong man is. Tisk! Yagami Kangdu easily blocked his own slash, and the golden lion was very surprised. However, it was just an accident. The stronger the strength of Yagami Kangdu, the more power the air pirates can increase by becoming his subordinate. As for myself not being Yagami Kangdu's opponent, it's just kidding. Philo reminds you, 3 things to read, collect, recommend and share. Chapter 116, See you in the picture, the big sword is the golden lion. He waved his legs again, kicking one after another in the void. An instant, 7 or 8 lines of golden sword energy were swept out, like a violent storm, slashing head-on towards the 8 gods Kangdu. Even if he intends to recruit Yagami Kangdu, fighting is fighting. If Yagami Kangdu died so easily, it means that Yagami Kangdu was not qualified to board his ship. Lion Thousand Cut Valley. The swordsmanship of the great swordsman of the Golden Lion. Performed to the fullest. Even though he lost his legs and replaced his feet with 2 swords. But the essence of a great swordsman is to swordsmanship. Deep down to the level of profound meaning. Even in this way, it can still wield extremely strong combat power. 7 or 8 golden sword energies came from all directions, blocking all the retreats of Yashin Kangdu. Chuckled lightly and raised his hand to cast Shen Luo Tianzheng. Muffled sound, he easily took over all the golden sword energy. At the same time, Yagami Kangdu moved. In the direction of the golden lion Shiki, he suddenly punched out. What a weird devil fruit, it's a bit similar to the shock fruit. The golden lion's eyes flashed, but he was a little curious about the method by which Yagami Kangdu could silently counteract his sword chi. But in the face of Yagami Kangdu's fierce fist, he didn't plan to retreat, but chose to regret it. Right foot was raised suddenly and slashed down at Yagami Kingdu fiercely. Boom! This sword instantly swept away the void and collided with Yagami Kingdu's fist. The fist of Yagami Kanto was covered with blue steam. It collided with the sword of the Golden Lion. It was like a symphony of golden iron, and sparks flew everywhere. Bang! The Golden Lion blocked Yagami Kingdu, but it couldn't stop the terrifying bombardment of Yagami Kingdu. Under the blessing of the 8th gate of Dunjia, the 7th Jingmun, the Golden Lion Shiji flew out uncontrollably. Yagami Kanto also took a few steps back, but that was only the case. This is the swordsmanship of the great swordsman. What? Yagami Kingdu smiled, but it was not as powerful as he imagined. If Hokage is so strong, he is a little too dead. The Golden Lion's clothes were a little broken, and the whole person looked a little embarrassed. He promised to teach Yagami Kingdu a lesson, but the result was exactly the opposite. Such a result made Shiji the Golden Lion unacceptable. Looking at the 8 gods Kingdu, he said fiercely, "I underestimated the enemy. Next, you will know what a great swordsman is." Whoosh! The Golden Lion suddenly swooped down and flew towards Kingdu, the 8 gods. At the same time, he swung his legs and kicked, and a terrifying sword energy that was nearly 1,000 meters long suddenly cut through the sky. Cut through the clouds and fall towards Yagami Kingdu. Chopping! With the sword on his feet, he kicked out a giant sword chi that was powerful enough to cut through hundreds of kilometers of sea. In the face of this fierce giant sword energy, Yagami Kingdu chose to resist. In the blink of an eye, the second stage can take shape. Clang! A metal symphony sounded, and the giant sword chi slashed on Susanoo with a frigid golden light. Power is amazing, but there is no defense capable of Zonengu. Blocking the chopper attack, Yagami Kingdu moved. Through the warped space of divine power, he came to the Golden Lion's side in the blink of an eye. The pupils of the Golden Lion shrank suddenly, unable to predict Yagami Kingdu's attack in advance. He had to fold his arms in front of him and use his armament-colored domineering defense. Bang! The domineering of the Golden Lion is similar to that of generals such as Kizaru, and in the case of complete passive defense, it cannot resist the violent attack of Yagami Kingdu. Hit by the punch of Yagami Kingdu, the Golden Lion instantly fell towards the clouds below. Yagami Kingdu has almost figured out the strength of the Golden Lion. In the case of aerial combat, the Golden Lion is extremely agile, but its speed still lags behind that of Kizaru. Of domineering, it is not much different from the general. Especially with a strong swordsmanship. Is definitely a great swordsman level. But even if the Golden Lion is a great swordsman, if he loses his legs and replaces it with a sword, the strength of his swordsmanship will be affected. It is not much stronger than the Admiral in attack. That cannot be measured is the tyrannical arrogance. The overlord color of the Golden Lion can have some influence on Yagami Kingdu more or less. But so far, the Golden Lion has not been used for the second time. Whoosh! The Golden Lion fell to the clouds, and Kingdu, the 8 gods, took a step into the air without hesitation, and quickly caught up. Damn! The Golden Lion still couldn't open his eyes, but he had already caught Yagami Kingdu's movements. He slammed into the air and kicked one after another, and Dead Tree and Sakura burst out more than 10 sword energy. Is intertwined into a large net, and it is cut towards Yagami Kingdu. This large net not only enveloped Yagami Kingdu, but also included the hull not far away in the attack range, forcing Yagami Kingdu to choose hard connection. Bang! The 8 gods Kingdu blasted open the net of sword energy, and the Golden Lion has recovered. In his eyes, and he rushed up at Yagami Kingdu. Originally regarded Yagami Kingdu as a new rising junior, but in the end, he didn't notice that he suffered a little loss in the hands of a junior. The Golden Lion was furious. Chang! The Golden Lion slashed out with a sword, but Yagami Kingdu avoided it and slashed across it. The other leg of the Golden Lion swept horizontally and collided with the leg of Yagami Kanto. The blue steam of the Bamindungia collided with the sword energy again. Yagami Kangdo's trousers were instantly cut open, but when the sword energy touched the blue steam, it was instantly disintegrated. Immediately after the golden lion couldn't react, Yagami Kangdo slapped it fiercely. Bagwazong returns to the sky. The golden lion Shiji who attacked was unexpected, his ears buzzed, and his mind shook violently. There was a problem with the rudder inserted into his head. At this time, he was slapped hard by Yashin Kangdo, which immediately caused an old injury. For a time, the whole person was blinded. Bang! Yagami Kangdo slammed a punch, hitting the golden lion's chest with a huge force. The severe pain caused the golden lion to instinctively use his armed color to resist, but he was still injured. Blood spurted from his mouth, and his body flew backwards uncontrollably. Cough! Cough! Damn! The golden lion was hit hard, and the eardrums were still buzzing. But after all, he was a great swordsman, and soon regained some clarity. Without hesitation, he kicked and swept his legs and slashed several sword energy straight ahead, blocking Yagami Kangdo's subsequent offensive. Looking at Kangdo, the 8 gods, who broke his sword energy and continued to charge, a trace of blood appeared in the golden lion's eyes. In such a situation, he has already made a real fire. Anything that recruits or does not recruit has already been thrown into the back of your mind. Die! Chopping! The golden lion swung its feet fiercely, the swordsmanship of the great swordsman. Fully exploited by him. A cross-shaped golden sword energy slashed fiercely towards Yagami Kangdo. Just as Yagami Kangdo avoided the sword energy, the golden lion charged down. Resisting the severe pain in his chest, he swung his swords together, sending out a series of fierce attacks. Chapter 117, Target, Doflamingo. Boom! With the strength of the 8 gates Dungia formation, Yagami Kangdo was not afraid of the melee attack of the golden lion, and was stunned from the front. But just as the two sides fought several tricks, the golden lion suddenly shouted. The violent overlord arrogance rose up fiercely, and suddenly pressed down on Yagami Kangdo's body. This domineering arrogance affected Yagami Kangdo's fighting state. Even if it's just for a moment, it's fatal to a master. The golden lion also thinks so, and has always retained the ability to be domineering, just to surprise. Sure enough, seeing Iori Kangdo's complexion changing slightly, he was obviously affected by his domineering look. The golden lion suddenly looked overjoyed, and swung his sword to kill again. Pity that Yagami Kanto is faster than him. Blue steam stagnated slightly, and suddenly burst into a more terrifying momentum. The 8th door of death. The 8th door Dungia formation is fully opened. The burst of red steam and the surging momentum instantly dispelled the domineering coercion of the golden lion. Damn! The pupils of the golden lion shrank suddenly, and I didn't expect the 8 gods Kangdo to keep his hands. It was too late to go back now. He could only bite the bullet and attack, and suddenly collided with the shock wave of Yagami Kangdo. Boom! With a muffled sound, the golden lion Shiji flew out. At least 2 ribs on his chest were broken, and blood was constantly spilling from the corners of his mouth. Sitting on the boat, his eyes were full of red blood. Looking at Yagami Kangdo rushing over, there was also a hint of madness in his eyes. 4. Pirates, especially big pirates like him. This kind of life and death shopping situation has been encountered many times. I don't know how many games I've played with Roger Whitebeard, but so far, no one has been able to kill him. Boom, boom, the golden lion has been hit hard, which has seriously affected his strength. Every time he collided with Yagami Kangdo, his body would be implicated, and a trace of blood would spill from the corner of his mouth. Yagami Kangdo was relatively relaxed, especially after he launched the 8 gates Dungia formation. He was completely bloody cruel to the golden lion Shiki. So strong. Looking at the battle in the distance, Nina couldn't help but exclaimed in amazement. Every time she sees Yagami Kangdo making a move, she always changes her 3 views. How can there be such a powerful person in the world? No wonder, dare to directly kill the world noble Tianlong people. Bang, bang, there were constant explosions in the air, and the Yagami Kanto and the Golden Lion were engaged in a fierce bloody battle. However, the Golden Lion is doing his best, but Yagami Kangta is just to be more familiar with the power of the pirate world. Forcing the Golden Lion to use more domineering tactics, it seems that the two are evenly matched. Puff, puff. Suddenly, the sound of a phone worm came from the Golden Lion, causing the Golden Lion to retreat violently. Wait. Yagami Kangdu didn't follow up, anyway. He didn't plan to kill the Golden Lion. He just stayed in the air, quietly watching the panting Golden Lion. The Golden Lion calmed down a little, and also judged that it would be no good to continue fighting with Yagami Kanto. The biggest possibility is to perish together. For him, it is unacceptable and ridiculous to fight with a junior. He is a legendary pirate who once competed with Roger Whitebeard, and what is it to die with a mere junior? In silence, the Golden Lion put his hand into his arms and connected the phone bug in his pocket. Phone worm was connected. There was a very anxious voice. Sir Shiki, there is a storm in the south. Please come back quickly and change the direction of the island. Quote. The Golden Lion suppressed his face and did not reply. Staring at the Iori Kangdu in the distance, he said in a deep voice after 2 seconds, Boy Iori, I remember you. Hee. Yagami Kangdu just smiled, but didn't say much. The Golden Lion glanced coldly at Iori Kangdu, and the whole person suddenly drew an arc and flew towards the distant island. Control the island for the first time and move in the direction of no storm. At the same time, the 8 gods Kangdu glanced at the Golden Lion indifferently, and flew back to the boat. Brother Kangdu, why didn't you kill him? Nina came up to meet him, looking at Yagami Sudo and asked. Yagami Kangdu shook his head. No need, a person who has hatred with the world government, it might be useful to keep it. Moreover, he obviously had the opportunity to sabotage our ship and threaten me with you, but he did not do so. Having said this, Yagami Kanto did not continue to explain. Although it is said that there is no possibility that the Golden Lion Shiji is in his hands, to hurt Nina. But it was precisely because of his retention that he left a life in Yagami Kangdu's hands. The 16th year of the age of the great pirates. 8 gods pirates quietly returned to Qinghai. They brought the giants of the new giant pirates with them. The process of returning was silent, but the purpose of Yagami Kanto this time was extremely dangerous. Turn the world upside down. Once we show up, or reveal information, we will immediately targeted by the government. Therefore, before that, all information and plans should be prepared to avoid the situation of temporary emergency. The ship sailed slowly on the sea, heading for an island not far from Dressrosa. Of the advanced recording pointer and part of the map of the New World, Yagami Kangdu and the others determined their location after returning to Qinghai. There are 2 islands between Dressrosa and the last buffer zone. Once you step into Dressrosa, it's time for full-scale war. Our advantage is that we have a 3-arrow record pointer, and the government and the Navy don't know that our goal is Doflamingo. There's also no way of knowing which island we're going to reach next, and we can take advantage of that. Helding stood at the table where the charts were spread out and spoke in a deep voice. Nina showed a thoughtful look, and said, the advantage is indeed as good as what Brother Kangdu has received. But the intelligence network of the world government is strong, and this kind of thing cannot be hidden for too long. And Doflamingo, as the core of the dark trading web, is definitely a highly anticipated existence. Statham said, that's why the boss prepared that. Tianlong people, just in case, buy an insurance. At a critical moment, it can attract the attention of the government and the Navy. If the design is perfect enough, it can completely turn the world government around. 8 gods Kangdu stared at the chart, and after thinking for a moment, said solemnly, kill the Tianlong people, so that we are definitely one of the main concerns of the world government today. including Doflamingo's intelligence agency. Once it shows up, plus the direction of our flight route, we can definitely make a guess. So, at least until the second island, there is no full exposure. In addition, if this Tianlong person wants to be useful, it has to be carefully designed. Do you have a plan? Yagami Kanto asked Nina. Nina said, there is indeed a plan. Yagami Kingdu nodded, without asking in detail, but continued, the purpose of this time is to destroy Brother Doflamingo, but in addition, we must let our Yagami pirates officially enter the eyes of the world. Speaking of this, a gleam of light flashed in Yagami Kingdu's eyes. Nina looked at the appearance of Yagami Kingdu, and couldn't help but raise her lips slightly, smiled lightly, and said, it seems that Kingdu has a plan. Perhaps in terms of strategy and IQ alone, the people present, including Yagami Kanto, are not as good as Vice Admiral Chief of Staff Suru. It may not be as good as Beckman, the vice captain of the red-haired pirates, but together, many details can be considered. In the detailed arrangement and discussion of the crowd, the first island appeared on the sea level. Philo reminds you, 3 things to read, collect, recommend and share. Chapter 118, Embark on Dressrosa. The giants are too large and easy to expose their targets, so we don't need to go to the island now. Yagami Kingdu ordered. Everything is for the sake of safety. The Yagami pirates are not the Straw Hat pirates, they don't have a backstage like Garp. There is no Hades Rayleigh as a master, no red-haired guide, and no father of the Revolutionary Army leader. Can say. Once he shows up, he will be ruthlessly pursued by the Navy and the world government. Yagami Kingdu is not afraid of being alone, but it is impossible for him to stay by the side of his subordinates all the time. Once in danger, he is also incapable of being cloned. Soon, Yagami Soto took Nina and the others and successfully landed on the first island. Purchased ingredients on this island, as well as some items that need to be used. But even so, the intelligence network constructed by the world government and the Navy and the Don Quixote family is still extremely terrifying. Even the few people who went to the island did not show their bodies, and they were hidden under the power of Yagami Kingdu. Only when purchasing ingredients, there are some traces. But because of this, the world government and the Navy found clues, of course. Because of this kind of clues, there are too many, and there are also Yagami Kingdu and the others who did it intentionally. Several days have passed by the time the Navy and the world government use the exclusion method and find that something is not right, and then carry out the exclusion method to investigate. Not long after the Navy got the information, Doflamingo also obtained information about Yagami Soto through the channel. However, this is just a piece of information that may be the Yagami pirates, and only appeared on an island. This alone is unable to deeply analyze Yagami Soto's next actions, which makes Doflamingo a little worried. The second report of the 8 Gods pirates finally appeared after 12 days. When this piece of information appears, and the first piece of information is connected in series, the world government and the Navy can infer something of some value. Navy Headquarters. In a certain conference room, the lieutenant generals of the headquarters were sitting on both sides. One of the lieutenant generals of the headquarters pointed to the chart with a calm expression and said, on this route, there will be 3 islands further ahead, but it is difficult for us to speculate which one their purpose is. Everyone else was pondering, including Doberman, who was sitting in the corner. And just when everyone was talking about it, a gentle and clear voice came, if you use the possibility to judge, the biggest possibility is Dressrosa. In the direction from which the voice came, sat a lieutenant general in plain clothes. The moment everyone saw her, they all showed a trace of respect. Lieutenant General and Chief of Staff of the headquarters, Crane. On these 3 routes, except Dressrosa 2, which point to the seas of 10,000 nations and seas of beasts, respectively. Unless they want to fight for the position of the 4 now. Of course, not that possibility. The 8 Gods pirates once killed the Silver Ape of the 100 Beasts pirates on Icefield Island. With Kaido's character, if he appeared on that route, he would most likely come to him. Crane's hair is nearly half gray, but his speech is very calm. She spoke slowly, linking all the information she got bit by bit to form a clear context. Finally, he picked up the teacup and took a sip of tea, then added, "Currently there is too little effective information. We can only analyze so much, and the probability is about half. About half of the possibilities will go to Dressrosa, and the other half of the possibilities are routes that point to the 2-4 Emperor domains. This possibility is a somewhat confusing number. To deal with the 8 gods pirates, a general must be dispatched. And for half the possibility, do you need to prepare for such a large-scale action? No one present has the right to decide. Half the possibility." Marshal Warring States sat on the throne with a contemplative look. Today, Akainu and Aokiji are not in the headquarters, only Kisarabu is there. In order to deal with various matters, the headquarters must retain at least one general. If the Yellow Monkey is dispatched, in case of any emergency, it will be difficult to handle due to manpower problems. Counting on Garp to run things or something. He wants to be a few more years as a marshal. The other side. In Dressrosa's palace, Doflamingo soon got information about Yagami Soto. He was different from Crane's judgment. Doflamingo firmly believed that the target of Iori Soto was Dressrosa, where he was. There is no so-called detailed inference and reasoning, some are just intuition. The Navy needs to deal with various problems rationally, but for pirates, in many cases, they act by intuition. Stronger than Doflamingo. Looks like it's really coming at me, fur. Of course Doflamingo wouldn't underestimate the Iori pirates. Although it is only a newly created pirate group, as the boss, Yagami Kingdu is a real fierce man. Escaped single-handedly under the command of the admiral, and dared to kill the Tianlong people, which was the most important thing for him. He is preparing to fully prepare for the upcoming battle. The most fierce battle since he occupied Dressrosa. After thinking for a while, Doflamingo took out the phone bug and dialed the world government. As the original Tianlongren, the largest trading corps in the dark underground world, he is the most special of all the 7 seas. Forces are everywhere, in the Navy and even within the government. The guy you most want to kill, come to me now. Fur. I don't know what your plans are. ... 7 days later. The Yagami pirates landed on the last island before Dressrosa, and began to set up on this island. This time, the hiding place was inevitably exposed directly. When the news reached the naval headquarters, Crane, Sengoku and others, almost immediately. Okay. Yagami Kanto's target route is the territory of King Shichibukai Doflamingo. Dressrosa. Although it was only determined at this time, it was already too late. However, the warring states quickly issued an order for the Navy to dispatch warships. Admiral Kizaru personally led 3 large warships towards Dressrosa. The other side. As for Dressrosa, Doflamingo has also recalled the cadres who were outside. People still don't know what happened, but the major forces on the sea are gradually capturing the unusual aura of the dark world, the Don Quixote family whose trading network spreads all over the world. Once something goes wrong, it will immediately spread to the entire world. And just when the eyes of countless forces in the world, with suspicious eyes, cast their eyes on Dressrosa, Yagami Kingdu and his party have finally arrived. To read the underlined version of the novel, please download Fei Lu's novel. Chapter 119. Unprecedented, all Don Quixote gathered. This is it, Dressrosa. Nina took a deep breath. Unexpectedly, she will be able to come to this place one day. Let's go. Yagami Kingdu's eyes were calm, and he opened his mouth as the ship gradually landed. At the same time, he jumped and landed on the shore. Wearing a white trench coat, he didn't hide his whereabouts at all, and walked into Dressrosa generously. All the plans have been made, and now there is no need to cover up, the rest is decisive battle. Nina chuckled and followed the footsteps of Yagami Kingta. 2 walked towards Dressrosa. So naturally, He crossed the street and walked to the royal palace in the center of Dressrosa. Here they are. It's really confident that you don't care about revealing your goals. Fur. In Dressrosa's central palace, Doflamingo stood by the window and saw the two Yagami Soto. A wicked smile appeared on his face, as if everything was expected. He turned around, walked out of the main entrance of the palace, and said to the figure in the darkness, "Since the guest has arrived, it's time to go out and greet him." 4 top cadres of the Don Quixote family gathered together, and even Virgo, who was undercover in the Navy, came. Arrived in Dressrosa a few days ago under the regular order of the Navy. Of course, Virgo won't show up. He will lead the Navy and act on the Yagami pirates on behalf of the Navy. Everything is the decision of the upper management, it will not be exposed and will not lead to suspicion. When Yagami Sudo and others came outside Dressrosa Palace, with Doflamingo at the head, plus the 3 top cadres except Virgo, they came out hand in hand. 2 people met 4 people. The 8 gods pirates, I didn't expect that your first target would be me. Brother Doflamingo smiled evilly, not paying any attention to the appearance of Yagami Kangdu. Brother Doflamingo didn't give Iori Kangdu a chance to speak, and continued, "I'm sorry to tell you that your opponent today is not me." As Doflamingo's voice fell, 666 figures of different heights, but all wearing trench coats and masks, slowly walked out of the darkness. The highest level of world government intelligence agencies. Exclamation mark. Yagami Kangdu looked indifferently at the 2 approaching and muttered to himself. There is no doubt that these 6 people are members of the Zero under the world government. Chief, you can be in it. The 8 gods pirates, hand over Holy Masquerade, there is still room for negotiation. A tall and thin masked man walked at the forefront, his voice was cold and murderous. He is the total of 0. The 5 old stars issued the order to exterminate the 8 gods pirates, and also has the duty and task of protecting the Tianlong people. There is no doubt that the Iori pirates are the first place on their list. Knowing that the 8 gods pirates are going to find trouble for him, Doflamingo should do nothing. Had provoked the 5 old stars because of the Tianlong people, he naturally would not miss such a great opportunity. He immediately contacted Wuji Zero, and Wu Laoxing hardly hesitated, and immediately dispatched Chief Zero. As a force on the bright side, the Navy will attract a lot of attention with every move. Zero hidden in the dark is different, its actions are completely secret and not known to the outside world. All 6 people and 6 have cold expressions. A few people just stood there, forming a chilling aura. The 8 gods Kangdu looked at them calmly, not panicking at all, and even wanted to laugh. In the face of absolute power, numbers cannot change anything. It's almost time. What time? The chief raised his eyebrows subconsciously, and there was a vague feeling of not being good. And almost at the next moment, the voice of a phone bug suddenly rang from one of them. The man's face under the mask was a little ugly, he took out the phone bug and answered it. "Ah, hurry up and save me, you bastards, hurry up for me. Group of untouchables tied a bomb on me, it was timed." On the other side of the phone worm, came the voice of Masquerade crying and scolding. The sound spread, and the atmosphere in the field suddenly became strange. Doflamingo's brows furrowed together. I didn't expect that Yagami Kangdu would have such preparations. Judging from the information he has collected, that is, facing Admiral Kizaru is a tough pity, and his personality is straightforward. Staring at Iori Kangdu for a long time, he finally spit out a word, "You are fine." 4-0. His vocation, or the most important task, is to protect the safety of the Tianlong people. In any case, the safety of the Tianlong people must be put first. Of their existence is the hardest shield of the Tianlong people. No, you two stay, the others come with me. Chang didn't know what Ba Kangdu had arranged on another island, but the Tianlong people were still alive, so he couldn't delay any longer. A quick decision was made, leaving 2 squad leaders and taking the other 3 players away. necessary to reach the island as soon as possible, then find the Draconians on the island and rescue them. As for keeping the two of them, that's what must be done. Of the two sub-commanders and the Don Quixote family, there shouldn't be too much of a problem. They return, or as soon as the Navy arrives, this place will be in control again. The Navy's warships are already on their way, and it shouldn't be long before they arrive. Whoosh, whoosh. After the order was given, the 40s immediately dodged and disappeared, leaving only number 3 and the eyes of the two were gloomy, and there was a monstrous anger. No one has ever dared to threaten the Tianlong people, forcing them to fall into such a passive situation. Chengdu doesn't care about the separation of the 40s. All of this is in his calculations. Looking at Brother Doflamingo, Iori Chengdu said indifferently, "Next, it's your turn, Brother Doflamingo." Brother Doflaming stared at Chengdu Iori. He smiled and said, "With this method, the main force of Zero has been transferred away. It seems that you don't think you are invincible. Let me tell you, the Navy has at most half a day to arrive here. Do you, and the girl around you, think you can solve me in half a day?" As Doflamingo's voice fell, Diamandi, Toripal, and the 3 top cadres of Pika slowly stepped forward and stood in a row with him. At the same time, of the Don Quixote family rushed to the square in front of the palace. It is divided into 4 armies of spades, plums, hearts and squares. The bomber Galadius, tons of pressure against Mahabe. Dewang Quan Rao. The cadres of the Don Quixote family are almost all gathered here. Each of them is a well-known powerhouse in the sea. The subordinates of Shichibukai were not rewarded, all of them would be New World pirates with a reward of at least 200 million. But the 2 squad leaders left behind should not be underestimated. And the huge number of Don Quixote's 4 major armies still brings an extremely strong oppression. Fei Lu reminds you, 3 things to read, collect, recommend, and share. Chapter 120. Crush Dressrosa Palace with one punch. At this moment, in some buildings not far from the palace, many civilians saw this scene. Their faces were all shocked. For their part, they had never seen the officials and members of the Don Quixote family come together in such a density. "Your Majesty, and Lord Diamandi. What happened to make His Majesty the King make such a big deal? Look at the people in the middle, they seem to be the 8 gods pirates." Of Dressrosa quickly recognized Soto Yagami. "That's what I realized. It has only been a short time since its rise, but the 8 gods pirates, which has already stirred up the world, seems to be fighting the Don Quixote family. Those who have not been turned into toys. People are naturally worried and uneasy in their hearts. However, seeing such a huge force of the Don Quixote family and the presence of top cadres such as Diamandi, their worries eased a little. But all those who were turned into toys looked in the direction of the square. Shocked, completely different emotions surged in my heart. Turned into a toy by the power of the sugar's fruit, he has to do a daily job for the Don Quixote family. Unable to recognize family members, forgotten by everyone. For most in their hearts is that Doflamingo can be defeated. Now, the appearance of the 8 gods pirates seems to make this desire possible. Go and report to the captain of the soldiers, something big has happened. Can you win the 8 gods pirates? Compared with the ordinary people who were kept in the dark, those toys took action secretly after they got the news. For a time, the entire Dressrosa was undercurrent. Do it. The 2 sides confronted each other, and after all, Doflamingo couldn't hold back and shouted violently. As for the mysterious Yagami Chengdu, he also wanted to meet for a while. I also really want to know what gives Yagami Kanto's confidence. Kill him on his territory before the warship sent by the world government arrives. Almost as soon as Doflamingo's voice fell, the 2 sub-commanders of Zero rushed towards Iori Chengdu at a very fast speed, and launched a surprise attack on Iori Chengdu's back, ready to assist Doflamingo and take Iori. Chengdu quickly defeated and won. The 8th gate Dunjia is the 7th shock. Yagami Kangdu didn't panic at all. The blue steam erupted, and he threw it out with a punch. The terrifying high-pressure gas bombs completely enveloped the Zero sub-commander and the three Doflamingo 3. Captain's strength is slightly weaker than Doflamingo. Doflamingo is still far from the current Yagami Kangdu. Boom! Under the blow of Yagami Kangdu, the two team leaders and Doflamingo joined forces to deal with it, and they all suffered a secret loss. Doflamingo took a deep breath, and a cold glow appeared in his eyes. His figure flashed, and he rushed towards Yagami Kangdu again, kicking in the air with one kick. Foot shave. Finger gun, berserk. Lanjiao, Kai bird. At the same time, the team captains also took action. Both of them are pure physique powerhouses, and pure physique powerhouses account for the vast majority of the Zero. In the face of the three-man raid, Yagami Soto showed incredible speed. The attack of 3 people, and then a whip leg swept out. Violently, the power of the void ripples swept out. All 3 of Doflamingo's faces changed drastically, and they used their abilities and armed colors to resist. But even so, under the blow of Yagami Kangdu, the 3 of them were still knocked back. The power of this guy. Doflamingo's face was extremely gloomy. In this short confrontation, he had already judged the strength of Yagami Kangdu. Of speed and attack, he is almost above him. And more importantly, the string fruit can't actually cause damage to Yagami Kanto. The originally incomparably sharp silk thread, entangled in Yagami Kangdu, was only able to draw a little white mark, and then it broke directly. Whoosh! Yagami Kangdu's eyes were very indifferent, and he didn't give Doflamingo time to think about countermeasures. Ripples in the void, the figure appeared ghostly above Doflamingo, and fell down. Oops! Of Yagami Kangdu's kick, his expression changed slightly, and he raised his hand to support it without hesitation. The cobweb wall. Countless silk threads were intertwined into a large web in an instant, and the arm and the part of the spider web it touched condensed a layer of dark armament color domineering. But even so, under the foot of Yagami Kangdu, the moment the entire cobweb wall was still touching, it showed a strange twist. In the face of completely unequal power, it collapsed in an instant. Doflamingo narrowly avoided the moment the cobweb wall was broken. The high-pressure gas bomb fell on the ground, instantly shattering the ground into a huge deep pit. 2 captains of Division 0 saw Flamenco in distress and immediately came to support. 1 left and 1 right attacked Yashin Kangdu. Yashin Kangdu's expression was indifferent. He did not need to seal, and directly cast the earth escape and earth flow wall. A huge and thick rock wall appeared, blocking the attack of the 2 captains of Division 0. Doflamingo drank lowly, folded his hands and waved violently. 2 extremely thick super strike whips suddenly attacked Yagami Kangdu. But Iori Soto just waved his arms wrapped in blue steam easily. Kai! The 2 super strike whips that were enough to cut through a town shattered under Yagami Kangdu's slight force. Yagami Kangdu took a step forward, followed by a straight punch. A violent shock wave swept through, heading towards Doflamingo. The spider's nest. Doflamingo stretched out his hands and displayed multiple cobweb walls. The moment the shock wave fell, the multiple intertwined spider web walls showed a terrifying depression. Withstanding a tremendous impact force, it reached the limit in half a second. Under the terrifyingly twisted depression, the cobweb threads were broken one by one, and finally collapsed completely. Doflamingo was blasted from the sky and crashed into the palace. Yagami Kangdu ignored the 2 captains of Division 0 and rushed directly to the palace. Killing the leader of Division 0, Shen Kangdu is not interested. The only prey he cared about was Doflamingo. Day Tiger. Yagami Kangdu, who fell on the palace, did not rush into the broken interior of the palace. He lifted his foot and slammed on the palace, and the illusory white tiger formed by chakra roared and poured into the palace. Next moment, the shocked gazes of countless members of the Don Quixote family and the civilians of Dressrosa. The huge Dressrosa palace began to crumble in the blink of an eye. which is more than 100 meters high, is under the gaze of everyone. Blink of an eye, it became a dilapidated ruin. A shock,